This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wrestling Omakase. It is episode number 122, and this week we are continuing the Year in Review 2019 series here at Wrestling Omakase. Last week, of course, we did World Wrestling Entertainment, which, as we were just talking about off air, was a almost shockingly well-received episode, so thank you if you listened to that and enjoyed it. I kind of can't believe how much positive feedback we got about it, but I'm very grateful because it's always the episode I'm most frightened about every year, because at the end of the day, it's just three people complaining about wrestling, which, there's so many podcasts for that, but hey, people like it apparently. So what are you going to do? But this week, we're going to talk about something I do like quite a bit more, and there's probably going to be a lot less complaining here. It is the Joshi Year in Review episode. And joining me on this episode is Taylor. Once again, welcome back.
Thank you, Blackjack, episode 21 for me.
Oh, that's good.
So excited to be here.
I have to pay you, 1.5 times of the $0 I pay you, I guess?
Yes.
But welcome back.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about, what I thought was a really good, exciting year in Joshi wrestling.
Also returning to the show for, I think, the first time since last year's Joshi Year in Review, right?
This is my patch now, the Joshi Year in Review. Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome back, Luke.
Thank you. It's been a really eventful year, actually, I think. Especially these past few months. I feel like we could fill the 2 hours just talking about these past few months. So I'm excited to get into it.
So that's a good place to start, I guess. Let's talk about, the big story in Joshi this year, because it ties into the first promotion we're going to talk about, which is, of course, Bushiroad buying STARDOM. First of all, I think a lot of people probably have mixed feelings on this. Would you either of you disagree that it's like the big story in Joshi?
No, it is. It feels like a leveling up of a certain kind of so Joshi's been getting bigger, it's been getting more exposure for the past few years, and this just feels like even more so than TJP having the big TV backing. This feels like the next step, I think, for Joshi as a whole. So I think
disagree. Oh, sorry.
No, go on and finish my point.
No, I mean, I agree. I definitely think, and we'll talk about STARDOM, but it's funny because it's such a big story that, it may bury a little bit that I thought STARDOM had a really good year, but I think when people look back on this year, and I don't think it's wrong to think of, this is going to be the sort of thing that people think back and remember, I think, most about this year, even though it isn't an in-ring, a match or anything like that. But it's obviously a huge story. And I think no matter how it goes, John, you mentioned, people sort of being mixed on their feelings on this. And I think no matter how it goes, it's going to be a big shift obviously for STARDOM, but I think it may, cause a shift in the scene as a whole.
Yeah, just to like for people who are sort of saying why would anyone have mixed feelings about this? My concern, and I think it's one that's shared by a lot of fans of Joshi, especially of smaller promotions, is that with STARDOM having this backing, with TJP having the backing they have, and then with WWE and AEW, you now have these kind of 4 centers of gravity almost for women's wrestling, for women's wrestlers coming from Japan. And there is a sort of worry, especially with the way that AEW and NXT have kind of been counter-programming each other with their presentation of Joshi, that maybe TJP and STARDOM might start doing the same thing. And STARDOM have already kind of quite ruthlessly gone about, I won't say raiding the scene, because really it's only been one episode we're talking about here, but they've shown that they are willing to not honor conventional agreements with regards to contracts in order to acquire what they see as being the best talent on the scene. So it is a little bit of there's a bit of a concern about monopolization there, I think.
I mean, if you look at it and think probably this was in the works all year, which I think they even kind of officially said.
Yeah, they've alluded to it anyway. Yeah.
So you could say, I mean, this year you could say you had, you have Cassandra Miyagi go there, and that was the start of the year from Sendai Girls. You have Riho go there from Gatoh, while she's also doing AEW, and then you have obviously the Judas and I don't know how to say it. The Judas in her mind, going to start. Whoever did that, I think it was Candace Sprite on Twitter, who actually changed the entrance music to her coming out to the Judas. That was fucking amazing. I have to give a special shout out to him in this year interview episode. But yeah, the real Joshi Judas, I guess you could say, Julia from Ice Ribbon. Yeah. So that was something. But yeah,
the drama, just for people who only know about Julia now that she's in STARDOM, or only kind of first heard about her because of that move. Us Ice Ribbon fans were not happy about this one bit, because she was, so her tag team partner Tequila Saya was scheduled to retire at a show. I think it was in October, and Julia basically submitted her resignation and turned up in STARDOM within the space of about 24 hours, just before this show was meant to happen. Tequila Saya therefore postponed her retirement so that she could fulfill Julia's dates. Excuse me. And yeah, it was a mess. It was such a mess. Like, Julia's this kind of was this rising star that had been a fixture in this in the Ice Ribbon Dojo with this kind of generation of new talent that's coming through, and I don't think anybody saw this coming. But that Bushi Road money was clearly, on the table and offered to her, and
yeah, I mean, you have to say, obviously it's, more money coming in the scene is great for the wrestlers. I mean, from what I understand, everybody on the STARDOM roster got a pay bump. So that's cool. But obviously if you're a fan of these smaller promotions and you see already, I just mentioned 3 names that have already kind of just gravitated towards that STARDOM money, you have to be worried, who else does STARDOM want? And who else is willing to go? And are we going to lose even more talent from our promotions? It is a interesting question. And then, like you said before, you have Tokyo Joshi, who also people forget they took God, what's her name? Natsumi Maki. Yeah, from Actwres Girl Z, right? Isn't that where she came from?
Yes.
And then and then they took that was a jump that happened again. Probably because they offered her more money and they have that cyber agent backing. And I don't know if people think of that as much as, it's not quite as obvious to people as Bushiroad, since Bushiroad obviously owns New Japan, which is, the big player in the Japanese wrestling scene. But like Cyber Agent is a gigantic company.
It's bigger. Is it not bigger than Bushiroad?
It is bigger than Bushiroad. Yeah. I mean, they could do whatever the fuck they want. They don't spend as much money on DDT as Bushiroad spends on New Japan, but also DDT, doesn't bring in the same level of revenue. But that's, again, a giant corporation that if they, there is a scenario where they get in a fucking like talent raid war with Bushiroad. I mean, for the most part, they've seemed like content to, raise their own like wrestlers, like really train their own wrestlers and bring new blood in the scene, which is great. But they could just decide they're going to sign some more people next year. We don't know. I mean, Natsumi could have been like the start of it.
Because they don't have too much interest in interacting with the rest of the scene either. Like you say, they're contributing to the scene, but I guess this is not to jump ahead too much, but one of my sort of minor gripes with TJP is that they don't let some of those girls out more, because I think they could really benefit from it. But yeah, it could well happen. You forget as well that Hana Kimura signed a contract with Stardom this year. So
that's true too. Yeah.
And now there's maybe, I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen, but Sari is definitely going to be appearing for them. So,
it sounds like she's still going to WWE, but like, we don't know for sure. And aren't there rumors floating around about Reika Saiki maybe going to Stardom?
I have not heard those, but they wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah. Or something. She's going somewhere, yeah.
Because she's resigning from Wrestle One. I think that is confirmed, right?
Yeah. I mean, their women's division has,
ceased to exist.
It's not been a huge success.
I mean, Reika Saiki and Hana Kimura were both Wrestle One at one point, and Hana, eventually resigned. And basically, Hana was wrestling for, Stardom and Sendai Girls at the same time, and other companies too. At the same time, she was signed to Wrestle One. And she ended up resigning for Wrestle One and then signing with Stardom like almost immediately. And obviously, Reika Saiki was doing Tokyo Joshi a lot. I mean, she was their champion while signed with Wrestle One. She stepped down away from Tokyo Joshi. She stayed with Wrestle One. She was doing Actwres Girls Z a lot this year, right?
She won the title, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was just before she got injured. So she had to
vacate,
yeah.
And now, if she resigns from Wrestle One, I would again expect her to either go back to Tokyo Joshi or to sign with Stardom. I don't know why else she would do that. So, I mean, she clearly doesn't have to resign from Wrestle One to continue wrestling at Actwres Girls Z or whatever. So
yeah, would they notice even? But it's become a thing now where, and it kind of started with Cassandra Miyagi. That whenever anybody says they're going freelance, it's like, right, they're either going to Stardom, Tokyo Joshi Pro, AEW, or fingers crossed not WWE. So this has happened recently with Saori Anou from Actwres Girls. So my guess there would be Stardom, but that's kind of just a guess. But this is now code. When a wrestler leaves their home promotion and says they're going freelance, it's going to mean one of these four things. And
well, guess what? It means the same fucking shit in men's wrestling too.
Yeah,
in Japan, because like Taiji Ishimori, I'm going to America. I'm going freelance. He's Bone Soldier Reborn 2 days later. Shingo Takagi, I'm going freelance. A month later, he's the Dragon. I mean, people were joking when Irie, I think it was actually, I had on the guest Jamie a couple weeks ago for the DDT episode. He was like, when Irie resigned DDT to become freelance, people were like, is he going to show up in New Japan as the dramatic dream fighter or something? Because they love doing the nicknames based on the rest of the promotion they came from. So yeah, I mean, it's become a kind of a thing. And he ended up going to fucking Strong Hearts immediately. So I mean, like it is a thing where like you kind of just go to. You say you're going freelance, but it's really like, I have a plan. I see you later.
I think
it's usually New Japan, but
I think that some of the people who were upset with the Julia thing were connecting it to the Kenta thing. Like
Yeah,
I saw a
yeah.
fair bit of that, like, God, it's gone to the dogs, hasn't it? Like nobody has respect for company loyalty anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
yeah,
think people have to be a little fair, and I get it, because I used to get really upset when people sign with WWE, and I've tried to get more realistic about it. And it's like, if the pay is so much better, you kind of can't really blame them. I mean, they want to make a fucking living and comfortably. I mean, you kind of have to understand that to a degree. But like that to me is also that's the upside. On the other hand, the way you want to look at it is having Bushiroad in with Stardom, having Tokyo, the backing with Tokyo Joshi. It's like at least there's now other options that pay well, other than going to fucking WWE.
absolutely.
I mean, I would much rather have Julia in Stardom than WWE. I think almost anyone listening to this would agree.
And if one of the gripes is that you're taking these performers out of the context that kind of molded them, and putting them into something a little bit more kind of homogenous, it's like Stardom is. It may be more homogenous than Ice Ribbon, but my goodness, like I would much rather she was working there than I mean, WWE.
And again, and that's the other thing you have to mention with Stardom specifically is it was either Bushiroad buying it or it was going to be NXT Japan. It was going to be the beachhead, and like, my God, I mean, I really feel, I hate to say it for a corporation, but like Bushiroad fucking saved her asses with this one. I mean, if NXT Japan had access to that Stardom roster, first of all, which is already over with a lot of Americans, or a niche of Americans, and second of all, has this like, Stardom has already, before any of the raids, has one of the bigger actual rosters of talent. I mean, that would have fucking sucked. So,
absolutely.
I mean, there's no other way to say it. That would have fucking sucked if that was if they were the NXT Japan women's roster.
It would have been a total waste of some of these girls' talents. I mean, we've focused kind of on a lot of negatives there, but I think that to look at it to look at all of this on the bright side, I think that this has definitely been like a big year of forward momentum for Stardom, even before the takeover, like more so than any of the years I've been watching. I think around the time I started watching, there was the fear of Io and Kairi leaving, and then the reality of Io and Kairi leaving. And it feels like there's been a bit of kind of reshuffling and resetting and consolidation. And it really felt like they were kind of growing again in a clear new direction this year. I don't know if you two kind of agree with that.
What do you think, Taylor?
Yeah, I do. It felt like for I think because Io was going to go to WWE, and then she had that neck issue that they flagged, and then she sort of came back, but everyone knew that she was probably going to leave at some point. It felt like a very slow sort of end to that was sort of dragged out, and it sort of made it a bit strange where she was the big star, but you knew that at some moment she was going to leave. So it felt sort of like, well, yeah, she's the big star, but does it really, what's really the point? Because at some point, in X amount of time, she's going to be leaving, because Kairi left way before her. So it was sort of a dragged out period. And I feel like now, like you said, they're sort of free of that, and they're able to sort of do their own thing and start establishing, new people, or getting, solidifying the, the higher ups on the roster. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And they use they use that kind of like coda to Io's time in Stardom to build Momo up. They had those 2 matches in the first half of last year, and they kind of laid the groundwork for Momo's white belt run, where she ended up this year breaking the record for the number of defenses. And then they used that to get Arisa Hoshiki over as the new white belt champion, which I think was, it felt like a really well done arc. That match where Hoshiki won the belt was really well executed, I thought.
So it's good to bring up Momo, because I think that's one of the more interesting stories of the year, is where she, she has this first half of the year, which is the end of her white belt reign, where like up until when she loses the belt, I mean, I think she had a good case for being like best in the world, not just in
Yeah.
Joshi, but anywhere. And like she loses the title in May to Hoshiki, and she did go pretty quiet after that for the rest of the year. And it seems like, there's rumors going around that like the Bushiro people aren't as into her or something, or they don't really, think she should be pushed to the top right away. Like, they apparently it seems like they're flagging like Utami as someone who should get a push, and like, Hoshiki and some other people. And it's like, maybe they think Momo's, so young, they can wait on her a little more or something. But like, they also seem to like the bigger wrestlers, it should be said too. But like, so it is interesting if that's the case. But like, she had such a great, like, almost half a year that when it came time to rate her, and rate the wrestler, it's like, how do I do this really? Because she didn't really go quiet after that. But like, she was so fucking good.
I had the exact same issue. Like that, looking back over my, my favorite matches from the first half of the year, so many of them involve Momo, and then I kind of fell off with Stardom, not because Momo lost the belt or anything, just because I'd sort of had less time in the second half of the year, and I didn't realize how much she'd kind of drifted away from the limelight, because we had the same thing with Miyu. Actually, it's their arcs this year have been quite comparable in that they owned the first half of the year, and Momo, as much as Miyu, was hitting this kind of stride of just being like just an ace, like just an absolutely fully formed ace that you really wanted to see lose the title, but every time she didn't lose the title, you were like, oh, okay, well done. So it would be a real shame if they didn't, she's shown what she can do, and it would be a shame if they kind of clipped her wings,
Yeah, what do you think about this too?
I do think it's interesting. I was going to mention it during the previous discussion, but something that I'll be, looking out for moving forward is this. It's nice that Stardom is there to prevent people from going to WWE, but their roster is already fairly big, as you mentioned, with a lot of talent. And the question is going to be, I think, moving forward, the joke has always been with Jungle that she never, sort of is in the spot that a lot of people think she should be. And I think that is going to, especially if they keep signing these people, WWE can sort of sign these people because they can put them on all these different programs, or they can do a Mae Young Classic where they, have that programming, where it's going to be interesting to see if Stardom keeps signing people, where do all these people sort of end up position-wise. They run these shows that have, sometimes, 5 matches on a show, and pretty soon it's going to be, a fight for the room to get on the card. So I think that, unfortunately, this thing that sort of happens to Jungle, where I think everyone recognizes that she's hugely talented, may start happening to more people. It may, happen to Momo. I don't know. Maybe next year she turns it around and she wins a belt again, and then, this is all just sort of hysteria. But that is something I look at and I say, wow, the roster is getting really big. And if they keep signing the top talent of, the rest of the scene, there's going to be some top people who end up, in the mid card, or sort of, in some people's opinions, sort of toiling away below where they should be.
I just had a look, and there's about 25 full-time members of the Stardom roster currently, which I would guess makes it maybe the biggest roster in Joshi. I mean, this year they were able to fill out the 5-star Grand Prix blocks with very little international kind of non-signed talent, and I think they even expanded the blocks as well. I can't remember exactly how many there were in each. But yeah, it's getting to a point. I think it's 8 in each block. I'm just looking. But they're getting to a point now where they can rely on a full-time roster. They don't have to bring in outside talent like they used to. But they're already pretty much at saturation point. There was only, I think only one like international kind of freelancer in the 5-star Grand Prix this year. And the rest, other than Sumire Natsu, were all kind of full-time. So they can't really bring in too many more without having to give up spots for people who deserve it.
I have to say, by the way, too, maybe the best, I don't know why I just thought this, I guess because you're international freelancer. So yeah, I mean, like, the good thing about Bushiroad buying the company, or one of the good things, is, you don't get NXT UK folks showing up and just beating everybody, and then because they can't job and then leaving. It's like, God bless Toni Storm. She can have fun being NXT UK champion. I did not need that mini return this year.
Oh god, I completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, I hated that.
Yeah. So,
yeah, no one.
So I don't think we're not going to see that anymore, and especially after they told them to fuck off when they wanted to buy them. So that's good. I don't think anyone would argue that's like unequivocally good.
Yeah, totally on board with that.
But now Toni Storm will take Rossi Ogawa's place in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Can you believe? I still can't believe they did that. Why the fuck is this Japanese businessman gonna give a fuck about the WWE Hall of Fame? He's so fucking stupid.
They didn't do the most basic research, because if they offered him a place in the CMLL Hall of Fame, he'd have bitten their hand off.
I mean, look, the best thing about this year was the Japanese scene just revealing themselves as like the opposite of the fucking marks in the British scene.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed that. Everybody telling them to fuck off. So one other thing too, before we move on from Stardom, obviously for a particular interest for people listening to this is Stardom's a very international promotion. They have the English speaking, service and everything like that, the English subtitled service and the English Twitter, which is cool. This year they ran a show in New York that Taylor and I attended, and I would say that show was an unequivocal success. I mean, other than the bottom rope being busted, I don't know what complaint you could have about it. I mean, they presented a pretty authentic Stardom show with, even the foreigners on the show were all foreigners that appear in Stardom or have appeared in Stardom, and they gave you a great semi-main event with Momo and Utami, and the crowd was like, the crowd knew everybody. They were into everybody. It was very much like the DDT show from the night before, the night before, where you could tell this was a crowd that knew their Stardom and they were very excited to see everybody.
We also got, sorry to cut you off, but we also got in the UK, we also got Stardom coming over for Pro Wrestling Eve's Wrestle Queendom weekend. So that meant we got a Mayu Iwatani versus Kagetsu singles match in York Hall that got a standing ovation. So yeah, we got a bit of that as well.
But the other point I wanted to make, though, I mean, Taylor, do you want to say anything about that show really quickly, the Stardom in US show?
No, it was great. I had a good time. They made us stand in the rain for 45 minutes. But once we got in the building, it was great. I would probably, this isn't a DDT show. I'd put it probably slightly below the DDT show, but it was still, I
agree,
really great.
So, the other thing about that is obviously there were lots of rumors / speculation that they didn't have work visas for everybody. And there's a lot of reasons why people came to that conclusion. The fact that they didn't announce a card until the girls got off the plane and were in when they photographed in JFK. They had a video ready and everything.
Yeah, I remember that night.
They posted the moment after these girls were photographed at JFK. It was, you could just, didn't they kind of have a look on their face like, I can't believe I got away with this.
I remember everyone just freaking out, being like, "Rossi, he did it! He got them all in."
But yes, obviously Bushiroad probably not going to go that route. But they have the girls that already did have work visas through Ring of Honor. Like there's some like Mayu and Hana, and like Mayu and Tam Nakano are on the Car Expo thing going on in California this weekend. So they're going to be there. That's like the first big like integration in the US at least. So they'll be on. I mean, they're going to have a couple matches along with Sumi Sakai and Nicole Savoy today and tomorrow, along with the New Japan Lions Break show. So that's pretty cool. And it makes me, again, that brings me to speculation for next year. I think I can say this. I don't think anyone's told me keep this off the record, John. So hopefully someone's going to get mad at me. But, I've heard that that Bushiroad, since they bought the company officially, has been very aggressive with the work visas for Stardom wrestlers. Like they are, they're pursuing them for almost the entire roster, if not just the entire roster. So that makes me wonder, for next year, is it just a case where they want to have everybody under a work visa? So if they want to do 1 or 2 matches on a New Japan USA show, which has been kind of a rumor floating around that they're not so interested in putting Stardom matches on New Japan shows in Japan, but they are maybe interested in putting out on New Japan shows in America, since there's obviously more of a tradition here of having women's matches on men's shows or otherwise men's shows or mixed shows, however you want to say it. So that could be one thing. Or maybe they're even planning on doing a full show here again next year, which would be great. And I don't know if they would, again, this is all my speculation. Maybe they'll piggyback off of like a big New Japan show, right? Like maybe whatever the big show is for the year, because there will be like this. I can't say this out loud, but like what I know, but I guess I can say, because Rocky Romero did say in an interview, and I can confirm there will be like a big show next year. Like there will be a show in America that's clearly bigger than the rest of the New Japan shows in 2020. So maybe they do something where they piggyback off that show and they do a Stardom show in a smaller building the night before, or like the afternoon of the show or something. I mean, I think that would be awesome. And I hope they do something like that. Or maybe it's just, like I said, they're going to do 1 or 2 women's matches, on a bunch of the New Japan of America shows. So we'll have to wait and see. I think it'll be a big story for next year. And obviously people will be very interested here to see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I'm excited for you guys to see that, because I don't think Stardom are going to come back to the UK after Rossi fell asleep during the white belt match at York Hall. He was asleep at ringside. Yeah, I don't think it went quite as well as it did as their show in the US did. But yeah, I'm excited for you guys to get more of that.
Yeah, the UK gets a lot of Joshi talent, it seems, and I'm very jealous, so I'm excited to get more in the US.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens next year with that. Any other thoughts you want to throw in on Stardom's year? We didn't really talk a ton about their in-ring, which again was really good, and there's a lot of good stuff. I would say, the big in-ring story, maybe from like a roster perspective, was the rise of Tokyo Cyber Squad, which I think has been a very, very fun unit.
Yeah, that's more of a merch story than an in-ring story, though, because they've just been like t-shirt printing machines. It feels weird to kind of not mention that Mayu has the red belt now. And ending the long national nightmare of B. Priestley being the red belt champion.
Aaron Bentley's gonna be mad.
But that's nice, because Mayu, I think, was someone they picked out to play that role, and then injuries got in the way, and so it seems that she's they can rely on her to carry that weight now.
I will say that I like the way they did it with Mayu, because they made you want it before she finally did. Like when she finally beat B on November 4th, it felt like it didn't feel like they waited too long, but it felt like they waited long enough that you're like, I really want to see this. I'm happy to see her with the fucking red belt again finally.
Absolutely.
So
and the match
I think that was actually pretty
good.
Yeah, I think that was pretty well booked, I have to say. And I like the idea of Arisa with the white belt. I mean, I think she's gotten pretty over. So, in a pretty short period of time. So, I don't know, Taylor, what do you think about the booking or anything else you want to say before we move on?
Yeah, I thought it was a strong in-ring year. But I think Stardom does have some, I think in years past, maybe the actual booking itself maybe hasn't been as strong, but I think every year is a pretty strong in-ring year. As we mentioned, they have a ton of talent, so I would be surprised if they didn't have a good in-ring year. But I thought it was a good year for them all around.
All right. So let's move over now to Tokyo Joshi Pro, which is probably the second most likely promotion for listeners of this to be watching, since they have the DDT connection and they're very easily accessible on DDT Universe. They have an interesting year. I think, the first thing I'm going to say up front is I don't think it was anywhere near as good as their 2018, where I thought they were. I mean, 2018, I thought Tokyo Joshi Pro was probably like my favorite promotion, like period. Not just Joshi, just like my favorite promotion. This year, I wouldn't put them close to that level, but they were still. I mean, that isn't to say they had a bad year, though. I mean, they still had a good year, filled with lots of stuff I really enjoyed and a lot of shows I really liked. I mean, they're always the company for me that like has a lot of fun storyline stuff. It's really fun to follow them. Follow the wrestlers on Twitter because they're really entertaining. If you don't follow, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of who the fuck, pretty much the entire roster. I mean, you're kind of missing out, honestly. Like, probably Yuki Kamifuku is the best follow on Twitter. Her Twitter is very entertaining, but it obviously helps that she knows English very well from, she lived in Ohio for a while, and she tweets a lot in English. But obviously, Maki Ito is a great Twitter follow too. So there's a lot of great Twitter follows in that company. But yeah, I mean, they put on really good, like, overall shows without having a ton of like standout work rate matches. Like their Korkins are always really good. They had a really fun show in Osaka this year, which probably stands out even more because it was the same day as a DDT show that really wasn't that good on September 1st.
The February show, the one that was called "Be Updated to the Future,"
yes,
was really
that show
great
was awesome.
Well.
That had one of my favorite matches of the year too. Saki-sama beating Miyu Watanabe in like the best squash match you'll see all year. Where like she basically just no-sold all her offense and just killed her. That was such a great match. It kind of set the tone for the year too with the two of them because it came full circle with Miyu winning the tag titles from Neo Bishiki-gun.
I did not realize that, but that was the same show that had the beginning of the Misao Rika Tatsumi angle as well. Yeah.
So, and then it all came together. I mean, they are a very well booked promotion. Like, you really can't complain about the booking. The only thing maybe is like, we said it before, the Miyu Yamashita title reign ended, and that was, Shoko Nakajima. I know some people really like her. I think she's good, and she definitely had one really, really good title match in DDT at Ultimate Party with with Yuka Sakazaki. But her other title matches, I don't think were quite up to the level of the Miyu title reign. And the other problem was, again, you had the tag title reign that also was not to the level of the previous tag title reign, where Yuka and Mizuki, had an amazing tag team title reign that came to an end, at almost the exact same time as the Miyu reign. I think like a month later. And that ended with Neo Bishiki-gun winning the belts in June, and Neo Bishiki-gun, again, they had some good matches, but not up to the level of the previous tag team champions. So
their character stuff was incredible, but the matches just didn't really back it up, and it's frustrating with TJP because I could always, it's not a work rate promotion, like it's a character promotion. But you could rely on it, and in that kind of amazing run it had through 2018, you could rely on at least the top 2, maybe 3 matches on a big card being really, really good from an in-ring point of view. And then, the undercard stuff was just kind of whatever. But there were a few shows, where the big matches just kind of didn't deliver. And I started to get a bit frustrated about the lack of, I don't know, like the lack of like really quality training that goes on there. If you look at Actwres girls, who are their kind of rivals this year. The speed with which some of those girls is improving is incredible, and I kind of just don't really see it with the newer Tokyo Joshi rookies, likable as they are. And
I would say the one, because there's one that has really, 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 I think, a lot of natural talent, which is Mahiro.
Mahiro.
I was gonna say Mahiro Kiryu. I think she has like a lot of natural talent, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if she's improving super fast, but I think she probably will get there because she basically looked like she knew exactly what she was doing the moment she debuted. So maybe it's just like when you already look that natural, it's hard to really show, fast improvement from that level. But yeah, she hasn't really. I think that is a good point. And then but some of the rookies I do think show a lot of potential. The other one I was thinking of is what the fuck's her name? Mirai
Mayumi. She's fantastic. She's kind of the outlier in a way. I think she is already really polished and adds a lot to shows.
But the rest of them, it's a lot of comedy wrestlers, which is fine. I mean, that you're going to expect that because it's still, a DDT adjacent promotion. But I don't really think there's a ton of flash there. But the up girls, I think showed a lot of improvement this year, especially Hikari Noah, who looks like she went from being a fun meme wrestler who could kind of go to being like an actual really good wrestler. So,
well, she got put into the semi-main at was it the May Korakuen in a tag team with Natsumi Maki, which I'm just going to say Pandemic Boo Boo is the best tag team name of the year. And she held, she really held her own in that kind of context. That was against Yuka Sakazaki and Mizuki, so
yeah,
kind of
that
very
was awesome
high level, high level tag wrestling, and she has kicked on since then as well. I mean, I'm really looking forward to her title match with Maki Ito in January.
I mean, there is a lot to look for, and that was the other point I wanted to make too. As much as their 2019 has been, I think they're, actually, is too strong. It's just not to the level of 2018. They have set themselves up really well for 2020. Beginning with the 1-4 show where you're going to have Miyu and Yuka Sakazaki, which should be freaking awesome. So we'll see. I think they're set up to have a really good year.
Yeah, I hope so. I kind of want something to draw me back in again, in the way that the Rika Tatsumi Miyu Yamashita stuff did last year. Like that. I don't think I actually put it as my match of the year in our show last year, but on reflection, I think it was, because it's something I go back to again and again, and it just had so much emotion. It was really gripping storytelling, and the match itself was really great. And it's a very high bar to measure them against, and I just don't think they've matched up this year. But fingers crossed next year they can.
And I want to make clear, again, their 2018 was a 10 out of 10 year. Their 2019 was like a 7.5 out of 10 year. That's still very good. Yeah, but they just, like you're saying, they set such a high bar for themselves that it was very hard to live up to it. But it's not like I still really enjoy watching them, and I'm gonna continue following them next year. But clearly wasn't as good as 2018. I don't know, Taylor, you have anything to add to all this?
Yeah, I agree. And I've been on this show a few times, and we've talked about DDT or Tokyo Joshi. So I think my thoughts are in agreement with both of you, and fairly clear that I personally am someone, maybe not a work rate guy is not what I would call myself, but that's certainly something I value. And I think that the scene as a whole has been really strong this year, which may have sort of emphasized that weakness point for Tokyo Joshi. But as we said, it's possible that people are joining next year. It's possible they could get some, new talent that is quite good in the ring. Some of their newer talent could definitely improve. So I think next year, I'm looking forward to it. I think, I think they can only go up. I don't think, it would ever get worse than, this. I don't think people are going to get worse. They have a lot of young rookies, as we said. Sometimes I think that And I think I said this on some earlier show, but sometimes I do wish they would sort of spread out the debut of their rookies a little bit more. It felt like a couple times this year that it was like, here's a rookie, and you'd be like, oh, I want to get into this person. And then the next show, it was a new, here's another rookie. And, oh, the third show, here's another. And it's like, if you're not giving them time to breathe, then all of a sudden it's sort of their, not off to the side, but you just go, oh, okay, well, I guess we got to move on from this person. And then, they're just sort of stuck doing, these sort of low card matches.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
I don't know that I would do. Yeah,
I've noticed. Sorry, that there was a lot of time between the whoever debuted last and Suzume, who was their rookie that debuted at the August Korakuen Hall show, and her matches feel like more essential than some of the other rookies because I think they gave her that space and that platform when she debuted, and they've given her quite a few singles matches. So yeah, I think that is definitely something they ought to think about when they're trying to create new stars.
So that's an interesting point. We'll see if they have any more debuts next year. But the last thing again to mention for listeners of the show especially is obviously Tokyo Joshi Pro will be making their WrestleMania weekend debut next year as announced as part of WrestleCon. So first of all, it's interesting that DDT/Tokyo Joshi moves from WWN to WrestleCon. I'm sure there's a lot going on there since, as we know, WWE had interest in DDT as well, just like, they apparently had interest in everybody, but thankfully Cyber Agent, I guess, told them to go kick rocks. So I'm sure that's part of the reason why, they had to, and also the partnership with AEW, I'm sure is part of the reason why, they had to team up at WrestleCon instead of WWN and the sellout crew over there, as you might want to call it. But yeah, the Tokyo Joshi show, we basically go from a reversal of last year where there was a Tokyo Joshi offer match on the DDT show, which was Miyu Yamashita and Maki Ito. And next year it'll be Tokyo Joshi with a DDT offer match, apparently. So that's interesting.
Nice.
People are, I think, excited for this. Look, I will be completely honest. It's the only reason why I even remotely think about going to Mania weekend is because of Tokyo Joshi Pro. I probably will not go at this point because I just have so many other plans for next year, and it just doesn't feel worth the amount of money to go for one show compared to other stuff I'll be doing. But I don't know. It's the only thing that looks remotely. I'm not really a freedoms person, and God knows the American wrestling does not look very good. Red sellouts on WWN. So yeah, but yeah, so that is interesting. If you're going to Mania weekend, make sure you go because I'm sure they're going to put on a fantastic show. It's 11 a.m. I think on either Friday or Saturday. I don't know if anybody knows.
I think it's Friday.
Okay, so make sure you get up early and get over there to WrestleCon for that.
That's John, quite an authentic start time for a Tokyo Joshi Pro show.
That's true. That's true.
Sorry, Taylor. John, you're not excited to see Accelerate?
No,
Style Battle version 2?
Are you going to go or no?
No, I'm leaning. I'm not definite yet. The flights are weirdly expensive.
Well, they're dropping. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, are they dropping?
Yeah, I have a Google Flights alert. That's the only thing that's giving me a little bit of pause is I keep getting these alerts that they're going down. I think right now you could get it's fucking Spirit, which would suck, but $170 with Spirit and $208 with United. So they have come down, but that's in New York.
But I'm sort of in the same boat as you. I would see Tokyo Joshi. I would go to Freedoms. That would be good to me. But I sort of drew it out. I drew it out based on what was announced, sort of ranking them as I definitely, I would go to see this. I would see it if I was there versus, I don't really want to see this. And I think something like 70% of the things were either I don't really want to see this at all, or they were I guess I would see this if I were in the building, which isn't a great percentage for spending, probably $500 for a flight and, lodging and a car and stuff like that. So I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards no.
I mean, there is a lot of stuff on that weekend schedule where I'm like, if this was happening outside my apartment, I'd close the blinds. So there's like a lot of, and then there is a bunch of stuff like, well, I guess I would go if it was in New York again, I would probably go to this, but I don't really think it's worth traveling for. And, I don't know. I mean, if I'd never seen Tokyo Joshi, I would probably take the opportunity, but I just saw them in June. I mean, it's not like,
Lucky you.
Yeah. So it is what it is, I guess. And I might see them again next fall. So we'll see. But yeah, so that's Tokyo Joshi talk. Anything you guys want to add before I move on?
Yeah, I something just jogged my memory then. Did you see the clip of Maki Ito fighting Cheetan in Spain?
I did not. No, I did not see
So
that.
I have a friend who helps out with booking for this company RCW that run out of Barcelona. And he helped to get over Miyu and Maki for a kind of anime expo thing. And Cheetan was also there. And he managed to get Cheetan in the ring with Maki Ito briefly, which probably should have been bigger than it was. I feel like that's been a dream match of mine for quite a while. But yeah, if you look it up, there is footage of Maki Ito and Cheetan fighting in a wrestling ring.
Yeah, I do feel like sometimes they go overseas and, it's sort of exciting for the people who are there. But other than that, it sort of gets swallowed up in the the constant inundation of we have so much wrestling to watch.
Yeah. And nobody is keeping tabs on anime expos in Barcelona, I guess. As well. Probably has something to do with it. Yeah.
All right. So Tokyo Joshi, that's that. Let's move on to Sendai Girls, who, again, probably the next most prominent promotion to most people in the West. They're an interesting one because they always have like super high-end matches, every year, and they have several on my top 10 match of the year list. But I never feel like I'm super into anything they're doing. Like it never feels like, well, they never seem to have a ton of shows that I'm really into. Like overall, they never seem to have like month-to-month storylines that I'm super into. I mean, the wrestling, again, could be really, really good. Maybe the best in all of Joshi. But and then there always seems like there's something missing for them with me. I don't know. Am I crazy, Luke? Am I crazy?
I totally agree. I totally agree. Like that, they always seem at their most electric when they're reaching out and working with other promotions. So the idea of Sendai Girls is electric when Kagetsu and Hazuki are invading for a storyline at the end of last year, or the idea of Sendai Girls seems electric when Meiko, Chihiro, and Dash are appearing in DDT, and beating All Out.
Well, they were awesome in DDT this year.
Yeah, and that's something that has been the case for a couple of years. I think there's something about the Sendai Girls brand that just, for all the quality on show, it just seems, I don't know, it just seems a bit. It's just. Do you
know what? I just thought of this comparison. They're like the modern Joshi equivalent, almost of like Kensuke Office back in the day, where Sasaki and Nakajima were awesome, and these, they'd show up in other promotions, and you'd be like, oh, the fucking Kensuke Office is invading, or Diamond Ring. But then you watch their actual shows, and you'd be like, this is fine, and there will occasionally be like a really awesome match, but there's nothing that's like really grabbing you and making you want to watch it. So I don't know.
Well, I think the booking is, and I think we said the same thing last year. I mean, the matches are great, but I think the booking is consistently shooting themselves in the foot. Like, I don't really know. Like, it would be fascinating to sit down and be like, why did you make the following decisions this year with, X, Y, and Z?
Or Big Japan, like that in that regard.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, especially with the titles, you look at the title, lineage on, wherever on Cage Match or wherever you want to go. And it's almost comical because it's, Chihiro, someone else. Chihiro.
Let's just
someone else.
hold on. I have it pulled up. I'm just going to give it to you. Ready?
It's like Chihiro Aja.
Yeah, Chihiro Aja. Aja held it for 87 days. Chihiro wins it back, 65 days. Hiroyo Matsumoto, 35 days. Chihiro wins it back, 278 days. Now, the next one isn't really their fault. Ayako wins it from her.
Yes.
Has to vacate after 24 days, but she probably was going to lose it back to Chihiro. And Chihiro wins it back, 349 days, fourth reign, loses it to Sarie. Sarie has it for 127 days, and Chihiro wins it back again and now has it for 55 days. So I get it. I mean, she's kind of the ace.
But
or
Chihiro,
whatever, but
she had the tag titles.
Yeah.
She had the tag titles, and they lost it after 0 defenses. They held it for like 200 days, 0 defenses, and lost it on their first defense.
Yeah.
I am a little bit more positive about Sendai Girls booking this year than I was last year, although hearing that about Beauty Bear has just destroyed me. I didn't know that they didn't get any successful defenses of those tag titles. But
can I just say, by the way, really quickly, because you brought up Beauty Bear, why do they refuse to push Mika Iwata more?
Well, I mean, she's injured currently, but
but like, why has she not been Chihiro's like big rival? Like, it just seems really weird to me. Like maybe that's the idea. Maybe when she comes back, maybe that's where Beauty Bear was going. But like, you have this other like, you have two. You're lucky enough to have two super talented wrestlers who are both came up through your system. They're loyal to you. It feels like you're just not pushing the other one. Like it doesn't feel like she's in enough of a prominent position for how good she is. But
ask Chisako about that as well. I mean, she's never held the Sendai Girls title. It is really frustrating that with such a small roster that the goods aren't kind of shared out a bit more evenly. I mean, and the tag titles are. Sorry, go on.
When is Mika supposed to come back? By the way, do we know?
It's not been. Yeah, it seems like she's out indefinitely, which is really sad because she is one of my favorite wrestlers. So I hope she can return at some point. The booking this year was they had the big show in Sendai. I think it was in October, and that was kind of the show where the belts had all been taken out of the company. So Sarie had the world title, Millie McKenzie and Charlie Evans had the tag titles, and Mikoto Shindo from Marvelous had the junior title. And then they all changed hands on that one show. So Chihiro beat Sarie, Dash and Hiroyo beat Millie and Charlie, and Manami, their kind of 15-year-old rookie, beat Shindo. So that was what they did this year in a nutshell. That was kind of their story that they told. But I think people, at least the people I know, the people in the West, will, like you say, John, tune into Sendai Girls for great matches, but nobody really cares about the stories that are being told.
Yeah. Taylor, do you have any disagreement with that, or do you think that's kind of what it is?
No, I mean, I agree. And then, of course, the thing we haven't, really mentioned is the possibility of Sendai Girls being something different next year, based on the rumors or, what's going on. Is it Sendai Girls and, doing something else, or is it under a different name?
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be Sendai Big Japan? Basically, it's NXT Japan, which is a big room because of Chihiro, because of the connections with Meiko and Daisuke Sekimoto. Which, look, I mean, that's far less scary to the scene than Noah Stardom would have been. I think that's fair to say, but it's still going to mean a very different company if it happens. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I feel like there's just been way less buzz / talk about that lately, so I don't know. Maybe we could all have the hopeful. We could all be hopeful that maybe they're just having even more trouble with than we thought. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
They did run a UK show this year as well, Sendai Girls, which was sort of NXT UK adjacent in parts, I guess. It was really successful. Like they got they got a bigger crowd than, you know, a lot of kind of established Brit-Rest shows that I've been to. They ran a bigger venue. So it wasn't like a remarkable show, but it was interesting. But I genuinely don't know where they're going in the future. Like, I have no idea what Mako's motivations are other than farming. So yeah, who knows?
And then obviously, you know, like we kind of, you know, didn't mention that much, but the Sari stuff was awesome, and I think that's what carried their year more than anything. You know,
It was great.
Sari Chihiro, Sari Mako. It's going to show up in our list later. But yeah, so some really awesome wrestling. But you know, like usual with the company, it's not always the greatest company to follow month to month or week to week. So
dip in and out. That's the only way to go with them, I think.
Yeah. So that brings us to SEAdLINNG, which is a company I know, Taylor, you've been a huge fan of for a while, and I think really took a step this year. I think in a very in a very like noticeable way, that if they felt more they felt more like narratively coherent, you know, more than anything. And like, you know, the new units and stuff were really interesting, and I think added an element that they probably needed. It's still a 4-person promotion or whatever, or 2-person, what the fuck it is. So that is what it is. But like the shows were a lot more, you know, interesting to watch month to month. What do you think, Taylor? What did you think of their 2019?
I actually was looking back, and they had a very similar, I guess, starting with the in-ring stuff, they had a very similar year to last year, where the first couple of shows of the year, or at least the first couple of shows that made tape, sort of feel like warming up, getting into the year, and then they hit a point where they sort of take off, and a lot of things are happening. You know, in 2018, it was establishing the titles and the title tournament, which happened later in the year. This year, it was, starting these units or factions or whatever you want to call them. And then, of course, the big Nakajima-Takahashi match, which I'm sure we'll all be talking about, or maybe we'll all be talking about later on in the show. I think of all the, obviously I'm sort of separating STARDOM here as sort of the biggest, but of all the sort of non-major promotions, Joshi promotions, I think that I'm most interested to see what happens with SEAdLINNG next year. It seems like every year they sort of add on more elements of a quote unquote being an actual promotion. You know, the fact that they only have three wrestlers on the roster officially. So I'm wondering, with all this stuff happening with STARDOM and Tokyo Joshi,
I had to laugh because I said 4 and I said 2, and it was
you were close. You were as close as you could be with still being wrong. I don't know what's going to happen next year. Do they, look at someone like STARDOM or Tokyo Joshi or AEW, getting these people, and do they try and sign more people for the roster? I don't know. They could. I could see them going a lot of different ways, and hopefully being back here again for a Joshi year in review at the end of next year. I could see a lot of different ways that this company could go and grow, potentially grow. They've shown a lot of signs of being able to, I thought the Nakajima Takahashi match was a great example of the company telling a really long-term story, which I thought was great. And it's not something you often see in these smaller promotions. So I thought they had a great year. Of course, they have, 2 or 3 of my favorite wrestlers in the world, which makes it a lot easier to enjoy the in-ring stuff, which I thought was really great. They had some really high-end stuff, as they usually do. But yeah, I think, I thought it was a great year for them, and I think that they're set up to, have a really interesting next year as well.
What do you have to add here, Luke?
Well, I mean, one thing, just quick, they have a rookie now. I cannot remember her name, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh,
she just,
so I was right. 4 people.
yeah, you were. I only just realized that. But yeah, she just passed her protest like in the past week or two. I can't remember her name. So that they are. I mean, that's a first for them. To kind of bring up a rookie like that. In my notes, I described them as the strongest of the pick and mix companies. Like you look at a SEAdLINNG card and they put the little logos on the match cards to show where everybody is from, and they have got this knack of just putting people together in really interesting combinations from across the kind of span of non-stardom Joshi. I went to Japan in March, and I was really happy that in the dates that we'd booked there was a SEAdLINNG Korakuen Hall show, because I knew even before they'd announced anything that it was going to be my best chance of seeing people from Marvelous, Gatoh Move, Ice Ribbon, etc., all in the same place. So that seems to be, if we're talking about what is their role in the Joshi landscape going forward, it's that for me. Like they're filling a kind of space that maybe Wave once filled, in terms of being this crossroads, where people come from all sorts of different parts of Joshi, but then anchoring that with really strong programs with their core roster. I do think they like the Kawasaki show that was headlined by the Nanae Arisa match. I did think on paper was one of the best cards of the year. There's maybe a little bit poorly treated by Samurai's editing team because they had to cram a kind of 3+ hour show into 2, but there was just so much star power across that card, and they're always at the top of my pile when I have a lot of stuff to watch their shows.
You've mentioned getting to go to the show. They're right there. Like if I'm making my list of like the companies left that I haven't seen in Japan that I'm gonna like circle and make it and hope to God they're running a show when I go next time that I can go to, it's them and All Japan. I mean, like those are the last 2 companies that I haven't seen live yet that I'm just like dying to see. So I hopefully it works out next time when I go in the fall.
I'm actually wearing the SEAdLINNG shirt that I bought from Nanai's mum on Nanai's mum's birthday today. Just like to add.
The problem is they run so few shows. It's just very like when you go for a week or something or 2 weeks, you never know if you're going to make it to one or not. The other thing I want to mention too, because we talked about the freelancers and everything, I think their group of freelancers right now really fit them really well, and like 2 that have come in that I really have enjoyed there. First of all, who I think she fits really well with like the big hosses in this company. Obviously Hirio works here a lot, and Nanai's here, and Yoshiko. So I think she fits in really well with like the big hoss ladies. And it's great seeing Sayuri back. Not Sayuri. Sayuri. Yeah. It's great seeing Sayuri back. And, she's been really good on these SEAdLINNG shows since returning from the UFC, imposed, what's it called? Basically she wasn't allowed to work Joshi. So it's great to see her back. I think Makoto, who again is like a bigger, as far as like taller at least, Joshi lady, fits in well here, and she's gotten so good lately.
And Mima Shimoda as well. Talking of big hosses, yeah.
So they got that market pretty well cornered.
Yeah, it's interesting. You and Sayuri were both inducted, I think, into Nanai's unit, Max Voltage, which has been a really good platform for launching. Well, SEAdLINNG in general this year has been a really good platform for Miyuki Takase from Actwres Girls, who I will be talking about later.
But so anything else you want to add on SEAdLINNG before we move on? Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move over to Gatoh Move, who I think have made made some waves for the fact that Riho and Riho jumped, which is probably a big story there. Emi Sakura is still there, but also obviously making a lot of waves in AEW and stuff, which I think is probably going to increase their general, what's the word, like, profile. And you look at it turned out that a prominent Twitter account was a wrestler there, which kind of came out of nowhere from the which I think also maybe increased their profile among Western brands a little bit. But I will be honest, I didn't see a ton of their shows, but Taylor and I did attend a show on June 4th while we were in Japan, which was a really, really fun show with a great main event with Riho beating Mei Suruga to retain the Super Asia title. That was a great match on a fun show featuring a mix of comedy and serious wrestling. But yeah, I mean, there was plenty of stuff on that show that I really enjoyed. But they're obviously very interesting promotion, and one that's accessible because they put a lot of stuff on YouTube. So
I mean, spoiler alert, Gatoh Move, my promotion of the year. And I think they've made the biggest strides of any promotion this year, easily, if you take it kind of in relative terms. And they've done that simply by putting their matches on YouTube. There's one match a day, and it's usually really up to date. There's like a 1-2 day turnaround sometimes. And the matches are short, so they're very easy to just kind of, watch over your breakfast or over your lunch or whatever. They're very easy to recommend to people. And I think they've just, from being a company that I kind of knew were putting on very, very good matches, but only because people had shared DVDs with me. They're now, it's all just there. It's like super accessible, and everyone can see, the quality of what's being put out. I think they also compensated amazingly well for the loss of Riho by almost immediately debuting this army of new rookies. They had we were criticizing Tokyo Joshi for doing this earlier, but it worked well for Gatoh Move that they had a Shinkiba show where they debuted 6 rookies in one go. And we'd actually seen some trial matches from these rookies on YouTube in the run-up to that show. So,
do you have the date on that, just for people listening?
That is a very good question. I will get it. It was like that. So this was the first show of their new, they're starting Gatoh
August
Move
20.
1.
I think August 28th. Then yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's called Gatoh Move 1. Move, Gatoh 100% fruit juice. Wow, I didn't know
so
that
August,
was the
August 28th, Shinkiba.
Yeah. And that's the start of their new numbering system for shows. They are closing the Thailand branch of the promotion, which was where Gatoh Move started. So they're focusing on Japan now, and also kind of getting a bit of international exposure with Mei Suruga in the UK last month, and Lulu Pencil had a match in the UK last month as well. So yeah, just the leaps and bounds they've made in terms of getting a profile for themselves, and this whole kind of team of new rookies they've got, I think sets them up to have an even better year next year. But the in-ring stuff this year has been, I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. It's right there on their YouTube channel. Just pull up any match, particularly a match that has Mei Suruga in, and you can see it's top draw stuff.
Yeah. So basically, how about you explain this, by the way? Explain the Lulu Pencil thing for the listeners and everybody, because I'm sure people have probably seen that name over and over and over again. So what's the deal with Lulu Pencil? Why has she become such a meme on Joshi?
Well,
Twitter?
somebody in my circles in Twitter described it as the most obvious piece of hipster baiting they'd ever seen in pro wrestling. Lulu Pencil is a shoot freelance writer who began training with the Daridemo Joshi dojo, which is the kind of very open, accessible, kind of casual pro wrestling dojo that Gatoh Move run, where women and girls can just go along and do a bit of pro wrestling training, and there's kind of no pressure on them to turn it into a career. But as I've said, like 6 trainees from Darajo did end up becoming members of the Gatoh Move roster, Lulu Pencil being one of them. Her gimmick is that she's extremely frail and bad at wrestling, and she's got it like down to a fine art. Like her matches are obviously they're comedy, but they're amazing. Like if you enjoy Antonio Honda, then she had an incredible match with Antonio Honda that is on their YouTube channel. You'll be able to find it if you just scroll back a bit. And she's, she can go kind of blow for blow with one of the masters of comedy wrestling already, and she's less than 6 months into her career. So it is genuine appreciation. She's not just a meme. she is also good.
She has a name. She has the name Lulu Pencil, which I'm sure
exactly.
That is a fantastic name. But so she came over to London for Pro Wrestling. Well, it wasn't originally meant to be for Pro Wrestling Eve in November. She was just supposed to be doing sightseeing and kind of accompanying Mei Suruga. But Emi Sakura basically told her to make merch to take and sell there, because she could obviously see how much of a kind of cult Twitter following Lulu Pencil was getting already. So on this show that Lulu Pencil hadn't wrestled on, after the final bell, she ran upstairs and brought down a massive pile of T-shirts, which she designed in the space of 2 days or even less, and sold them all. Sold way more than any other wrestler that had actually been on the show, and then ran up to get more and sold more. So yeah, Pennsylvania is real, and it's here. And then Eve booked her on an actual show because of that?
Yeah, and then she was on the 4th show of the weekend tournament against Mei Suruga. Yeah.
So I want to mention too, because I want to reiterate that recommendation. Lulu Pencil versus Antonio Honda, YouTube. Definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, I mean, look, anything else to add about Gatoh Move's year? Seems like they had a great year then.
I've done. I'll plug my stuff at the end, but I've done a couple of podcasts on Gatoh Move, and I am very much out there as saying that I think they offer a kind of like a visionary alternative to how most pro wrestling is done. I think that they're doing stuff, particularly because of the space that they use, that tiny former dentist waiting room. They're doing stuff with wrestling that really nobody else is doing. So, just if you're listening to this and you haven't watched them already, just check them out.
Can I ask you, by the way?
Less than 10 minutes. Yes.
Has the December 1st Basement Monstar show made tape yet? Because I really want to see Nanai and Mei Suruga. That sounds awesome.
Not that I've seen, no, but hopefully it will. Yeah.
Because they went 15 minutes. Wow.
Seriously.
So I want to see that match.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Taylor, about Gatoh Move's year?
Yeah, I was going to say 2018 felt like sort of like Marvelous was and I guess I'll call them like the meme promotion, which might sound like a dig, but is actually a compliment, where in 2018 it felt like I was logging onto Twitter every day and people were talking about something else that had happened in Marvelous. And that felt like Gatoh Move this year. I think part of that is due to the fact that they're so accessible and they're putting these matches up every day. But it felt like every time I logged into Twitter, there was sort of new talk about what Gatoh Move had done, which was really great. I think that they should definitely be commended for their accessibility with the YouTube channel and with the English commentary. I think that that's something that a lot of other, not only Joshi promotions, but promotions in general could take a lesson about, and they, I think they have their finger. I think this is sort of what's already been said, but I think they have their finger on the pulse of what sort of people want, and they're giving people what they want. John, as you said, we went to that show in June, which was really great. And I've watched a lot of their YouTube stuff, which I've also really loved. So I think that they're a lot of fun, but I think the best thing about them is they have a little bit better of an understanding of what sort of their audience wants, and they're able to give it to them. They're obviously delivering it to them because of all, the talk about Gatoh Move this year.
So there you go. And have to say, if you're a English language podcast that doesn't normally cover them and decides to dunk on them for no reason, fuck you.
And that's that on that.
Marvelous. That's Women's Pro Wrestling. Let's talk about them next. It's a good little transition that Taylor just mentioned them. So I haven't seen any Marvelous this year. I'm just going to throw that out there and, say that right away. The next three promotions we're talking about, I haven't really seen anything of. So take it away, I guess. Taylor, why don't you start here with Marvelous? What was their big story?
Well, it's interesting thinking back about the year that seemingly their biggest story is their rookies, but I feel like some of the best sort of stuff of their rookies happened outside the actual promotion itself. Obviously, I think personally they have, with the three rookies, with Maria, with Mei Hoshiki, and Makoto Shindo, and now the newest one, Hibiki. To me, they have the best, sort of being able to turn all these rookies out in a short amount of time. We've talked about it with a couple other promotions, but I think they're probably, to me, head and shoulders in terms of rookie of the year, in terms of in-ring talent. I think all three of them are great, and Hibiki just started. But in terms of the promotion, as I mentioned, sort of in 2018, they were sort of the big, talk of the Joshi world with what's going on. I think a lot of that had to do with Mio Momono, who spent about 95% of the year out. She was out for most of the year. She came back and almost immediately got injured again, unfortunately. So I think it was a little bit of a less talked about year for them. But they did have the rookies, which I think was really their sort of shining achievement of 2019. And depending on what those three rookies do, could be the thing that we look back and say, oh, that was the moment when, these three great, wrestlers debuted and went on to do great things, which I hope that they do. But, I think we mentioned last year that Marvelous is sort of a fun sort of, you feel like you're going to hang out with friends. And I think it continued that this year. I don't have too many sort of standout Marvelous matches, but I thought that they, had a good year, but the best things that sort of happened to them this year happened outside the promotion.
It's interesting you say that, though, because I think I kind of agree with you, but I also think that in the more high profile matches that the rookies had inside Marvelous, the atmosphere for those matches was kind of unparalleled across Joshi. In sort of Shinkiba size shows that I'm talking about, like the Mei Hoshizuki versus Chikara Nagashima match, which I will talk about later because it's on my top 10 matches of the year list, or the singles match that Mikoto Shindo had with Takumi Iroha. I can't remember what month that was. Or the matches that Maria, or the encounters in general that Maria had with Nanai Takahashi. Excuse me. Like, the crowd are so behind them, and it's a really good crowd, the Marvelous crowd, and so those were the highlights of their in-ring year. I think those kind of when they gave the rookies platforms to really shine in front of a kind of partisan, loyal home crowd, it did make for magic, which did actually end up. I didn't watch them as much as I did last year because, I mean, Mio is one of my favorite wrestlers, and kind of I did feel her absence. But whenever I did tune in, there was always something like that to kind of remind me of what a great promotion Marvelous can be.
All right. So let's move over to Ice Ribbon, another promotion. And this is one I always mean to watch them, and I just somehow it never happens. I did watch them towards the end of last year and was into the idea of Hikaru Shida returning and feuding with people, which, as I understand, did not really happen. But I guess she got.
It happened for a few months. It was, I think, there were 2 matches. It was, or 3 matches. Sorry, yeah.
It was kind of a, let's say, kind of a letdown, I guess. Is that fair?
Ice Ribbon, no, I totally the opposite.
I meant specifically a Hikaru Shida thing.
Yeah, but she had a match with Risa Sera at the Yokohama show in October or August, sorry. And then she had 1 match with Akane Fujita, which was very good, and another match with Risa Sera at Ribbon Mania, and that was it. Yeah.
Okay. But then, as far as the year overall goes, and you seem you're ready to jump at me when I said the year was a disappointment, which I wasn't trying to say at all. But anyway, so what? Go ahead and tell me about how great Ice Ribbon was this year.
So, kind of a few things. Really good rookies. Suzu Suzuki debuted on New Year's Eve last year, and is one of the best rookies in Joshi, I think. Just kind of endlessly entertaining. For anybody who's not seen her, she was supposed to debut a few months earlier than she did, but she got into a bike accident and I think broke her collarbone or something, and so had to take time out to recover from that. And then when she eventually did debut, she debuted with a bike gimmick. So she came out to her debut match at Korakuen Hall on a bike. She has a little taunt where she goes chirin chirin chirin, which is the sound a bike bell makes. I mean, how can you not love that? But she's a brilliant worker, like a real prospect for the future. She had a great rivalry with Asahi, who is another of their rookies who had debuted a bit, maybe about a year earlier than Suzu. They've built up people like Ibuki Hoshi and Julia before that all kind of fell to pieces. So they had that. They also had people really stepping up. Tequila Saya, who'd kind of been a bit of a bit part player, became really important to them and won the tag title and now has the triangle ribbon title. Maya Yuki really kind of claimed her, crown as ace. And they brought in some really interesting outsiders. Like they used to be very reliant, I think, on freelancers more than they are now. But the freelancers they brought in this year were like really, really good picks. So Rina Yamashita has worked more Ice Ribbon this year than anywhere else. They brought in Ram Kaicho from 666, which was a kind of real lateral move that's worked really well for them, I think. And they also have just kind of struck up a regular participation deal with Miku Aono from Actwres Girls, who's really, really good. She's one of their kind of top prospects. So really good recruitment. They just have such a good roster, and they used it so well. They built to their big cards like few other companies did. The angle where Tsukasa Fujimoto had to fight the wife of a giant panda that she was supposedly having an affair with was handled with like way more respect and seriousness than you would expect for a goofy angle like that. That match happened in March. They ran Yokohama Bunker Arena in October and held a tournament to lead up to that kind of set the main event, which really built anticipation for that show. And they also this year, one last thing before I let somebody else speak, they brought in a kind of sideshow thing called Pea's Party, which it's on their Nico Nico channel, and it's kind of like the shows are like 30 minutes to an hour and usually have 3 matches on and are just really, really good, digestible shows. So I just think they struck all the right balances this year. Did anybody else watch any of them?
I did. I watched less than I wanted to, but I did watch. I sort of went in and out. I was going to mention the Fujimoto Tintin feud at the beginning of the year, which seemed to envelope sort of all of wrestling for a while there, just because I think it was so wild. But it was, as you mentioned, sort of treated with a degree of seriousness that was admirable, I guess I would say. But yeah, I thought that they had a strong year. It was one of those things where I sort of watched less than I wanted to, not out of any, dislike of it, but just because of it, at some point it's a time, you've got certain time and then time runs out and you go, oh, I'll get to that. And then, it doesn't happen. And, they do run a high number of shows.
A lot of shows.
My
God.
Especially compared to some, thinking of someone like SEAdLINNG, which, you sort of have 1 or maybe 2 shows a month. So I think sometimes it can feel daunting because you say, oh, I'll watch that. And then you go back to it. And then, now all of a sudden there's 3 shows to watch. Which is not meant to be a critique, but what?
I think they ran the most shows of anyone in Joshi this year because when I opened, I basically used the cage match results page for every promotion, and they were the only one whose 2019 did not fit on one page.
Wow.
And not even STARDOM. I had to go to a second page to get to the start of the year. So
a lot of that is that they run shows in their dojo. So the Peace Party shows, which are produced by Tequila Saya, use the dojo as a space, but they also have kind of ice ribbon events in the dojo. So a lot of them are just kind of like very small, sort of 2 or 3 match cards, but they're actually some of the best things to watch. If I mean, it's kind of not that accessible, especially now that Nico has, international subscription, so Mort won't be uploading all the shows that Ice Ribbon put on their Nico channel. But if you can get hold of Peace Party shows, it's a really kind of easy way into Ice Ribbon, and you'll get to know a lot of the kind of up and coming talent there.
All right. So anything else to add about Ice Ribbon?
I'll talk a bit more about them in my awards, I think.
So the last promotion we're going to talk about really is Actwres Girls Z. It's another promotion I did not watch really. So take it away, I guess. Luke, what do you think of Actwres Girls Z's 2019?
Well, I can't help but comparing them to Tokyo Joshi Pro, because partly because those 2 companies have beef with each other, and I think, has it happened twice now that they've run Korakuen shows at roughly the same time, and Actress Girls have announced that the attendance is like Tokyo Joshi Pro's +1. Obviously losing Natsumi Maki to Tokyo Joshi at the beginning of the year kind of increased that. But so I can't help but thinking of them in the same breath, and I've mentioned it already, but it is really remarkable the progress that some of the rookies are making in Actress Girls compared to Tokyo Joshi, compared to a lot of other promotions, to be honest. At their first Korakuen Hall show last year, they debuted like a whole load of new talent who are all kind of really coming good now. So I've mentioned Miku Aono, who's going to be doing a lot of work in Ice Ribbon. There's also Riko Kawabata, Ayumi Hayashi, who are all becoming kind of like quite sought after in the SEAdLINNGs and Marvelouses of this world. The next step up, you have this kind of generation with Miyuki Takase and Kakeru Sekaguchi, Himeka Arita, Tai Honma, who are everywhere this year. Like everywhere. Oz Academy, Ice Ribbon, YMZ, you name it. And they're just doing such a good job of getting these girls out to other promotions. And, I feel like every time a Miyuki Takase goes to SEAdLINNG or a Kakeru Sekaguchi goes to Oz Academy, they become really important to the fabric of that promotion. I just think Yumiko Hotta is a seriously underrated trainer, and she's doing amazing work in this promotion. And they're on Nico Nico now, so we can finally watch them without kind of sneaking around in the DMs looking for rips of DVDs. So I hope that they get a bit more profile next year.
Anything you want to add about this, Taylor?
No, I think everything I would have said was covered. I was happy to see them debut on Nico Nico because, they were sort of one of a handful of promotions, some that are still doing it, but sort of people talked about them and then you said, oh, I'd love to watch their shows. And it was sort of like, well, you want to buy some, $50 DVDs from Japan, and you couldn't really. But I totally agree, not only with this year, but I mean, even looking back to some years ago, had the sort of agreement, or I don't know what the term was, with STARDOM, where they were sort of, sharing talent or whatever, officially was happening. That I think they've always been great at creating talent, building talent. I'm happy that, SEAdLINNG's one of my favorite promotions. So happy that Takase was there because I thought that she had a really great year. So happy that I can see them other places, but also happy that now that they have their own platform where I can, sort of see them in their home promotion, which I think is always, as much as I enjoy people going out, I do like to see people sort of in their home promotion and see exactly what's going on.
Okay, so let's briefly touch on anything else before we move on to the awards. Taylor, you and I got to see an Oz Academy show. That was pretty cool, except for the fact that I don't remember it because it was the day I landed. So, I remember really enjoying some of it, but I also remember almost falling asleep because I came straight there after I checked into my hotel. And yeah, so if you're going on a trip to Japan, folks, I can't really recommend going straight to a show because I've done it on 2 out of 3 of my trips, and I barely remember the New Japan Korakuen, and I barely remember the Oz Academy show at Shinjuku Face, but I think I enjoyed it.
I'll say about Oz Academy that, they sort of had a year that they always have, which is that if you either enjoy the sort of style that they do, the sort of interference heavy style that they have, or if you can at least, sort of get past it, you'll probably enjoy a lot of what they did this year, as I did. But I know that there are some people out there who don't like that style, which I also totally understand and prefer not to watch the promotion because of it. But the thing I always say to people who say, oh, should I get into this? I say, if you watch one show, any show, and you don't like the show, you're probably not going to like the promotion because that's the style. And the style is, with some differences depending on who's matching up with who, but the style is sort of what the style of the promotion is. I thought they had a great year. I didn't do what John did, so I was very awake for that show. And I thought it was an excellent show. I had a great time. And I thought that their big show, as I'll talk about a little bit later, was really great this year. So it was a promotion that I definitely enjoyed, but it's not for everyone, as sort of it is every year.
Yeah, I didn't watch very much of them. I think for that reason, I if I'm in a certain mood, I can enjoy it, but I sort of know what I'm going to get. I think Kaori Yoniyama was really great in Oz Academy this year. Whenever I saw her, and they've a few companies have been pushing Rina Shingaki from formerly from Kaientai Dojo, now 2AW or whatever it's called. But she had some good matches in Oz Academy. But yeah, I I second what you've said about it, I think. I just wanted to add, actually, because this just made me remember thinking about Kai stuff. Taka's new promotion, JTO, have just debuted a couple of Joshi rookies who are very, very good. Tomoka Inaba. I want to say Tomoko, but it's Tomoka Inaba, and Maika, who is having a match with Utami soon, I think. So there'll be ones to watch for next year.
Anything to add about? I guess we can. What about Wave? I know they went away and then came back. Did you see much of Wave, Taylor?
So I watched. I actually got the DVD of the Catch the Wave tournament because the way they aired it this year was a bit. It was a bit odd. I didn't watch what aired, but I just watched the DVD. It's. I think I sort of looked at it with a bit of sadness because I think last year was really great for them. I think they had a great year outside of, some issues that were out of their control. And then Ohata retired, and then they said, we're going on this 4-month break. And it felt like in the 4 months that sort of the air came out of the balloon for them. And they came back, and it just felt like it wasn't the same. The Catch the Wave stuff I watched was up to the standards of, the previous years. Catch the Waves, a lot of good stuff and stuff that I enjoyed, but it just sort of felt like a promotion that, they took the time off and came back, and it, you just think, it's not the same as it was.
And now they've lost Mizunami as well. So yeah,
right.
I can't feel like they're long for this world, unfortunately, because they were one of the companies that gave Sakura Hirota a real spotlight run this year. So we've got to thank them for that. But yeah, they were hard to watch this year if you don't buy DVDs. They've fallen quite a long way, I think. From
do you guys? That reminds me though. Do you guys ever watch Occupation of the Joshi? Because I feel like I saw them a million times on that, and that's probably about it.
Yeah, that and kind of Battlemen, like stuff would pop up, but yeah, it was they were pretty much off the radar, I think, for a lot of this year, at least in my circle.
But that's a little transition to Pure J, who I feel like is the world champions of fucking Occupation of the Joshi or Battlemen. Like every time I see them, I mean, first of all, it looks like they're running these buildings in front of 50 people, it has to be said. But like the highlights always look so entertaining, and I'm like, I should check out this match. And then I look at, where can I watch the actual match? And the answer is nowhere. So, they're the champions of Occupation of the Joshi. Some entertaining matches.
One cool thing that they did. One cool thing that they did this year was they ran these two. I mean, it was sort of outside of the Pure J umbrella, but it was a Command Bolshoi thing. She ran these two shows called Pure Princess, which were for rookies, but the focus was very much on kind of like technical stuff. And the second one, Suzu Suzuki from Ice Ribbon won the POP title, which was a JWP kind of junior title that they've brought back. She won it on a judge's vote or something. Like they didn't actually have a championship match for it. She was just judged kind of like the best performer of all the rookies. So that was cool, kind of to see Bolshoi steering all these rookies from different promotions. Like there were people from Actwres Girls, Ice Ribbon, etc. there. Also, Pure J have debuted a couple new rookies this year who seem pretty good. There's one called Kureya, who won the musical chairs competition at YMZ Korakuen Hall, which is a feather in her cap. And one called Akari, who's from Chile, who also seems pretty good. But yeah, like check them out on Occupation of the Joshi, I guess.
Anything else to add about? Okay, how about, I guess let's finish up with YMZ. Taylor, tell me about YMZ.
YMZ had a great year. We were talking about them before we recorded. They're not really technically a Joshi promotion, but they have a lot of Joshi talent. They the shows are very unique in that they're sort of very, I don't even know what word I'm looking for. I want to say story heavy, but not like a story of a match. You think of like, oh, someone's selling their leg, but as in like, oh, we're going to tell stories about each other.
About how Hikaru Sato is a pervert and that.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
Or I'm going to talk about the crow that lives in the graveyard next to my house. But they're fun shows. They do a great job. They have their own streaming service where all the shows come out with English subtitles, which is pretty much essential for if you don't speak Japanese, understanding what's going on at YMZ. But the shows usually, they had a Korakuen show, which was a little bit longer, but the shows are usually about an hour. They've got a few matches, so they're really easy to get through. They're a lot of fun, and of the hour, probably only about 35 minutes of that is quote unquote actual wrestling. But I just think they're fun. Sort of like in the similar vein of a little bit different than Gatoh Move, but sort of that sort of thing where they're their own sort of look into the world of professional wrestling and what professional wrestling can be. So I always, I want people to get involved. My only hang up is that streaming service is $10 a month, and it's usually, at most 2 shows, which, for people who, if you're into it, I understand, investing the money into that sort of blindly for 1 or 2 shows might seem like a lot, but I always recommend them as something totally different. It's not, you don't look at YMZ and say, oh, it's just like this, this other promotion I watch or something else I do. It's totally unique. It's a lot of fun. I always love watching the shows. So yeah, and I thought they had a great year. They had a Korakuen, which was super fun, and had a lot of the people who have wrestled in the past on the show.
Plus others, like they had Hana Kimura and Jungle Kyona in a trios match with Mei Suruga and Leon and some other people. I think Yoniyama was there, obviously. It was really great seeing all those people together in one space. Also, just before you move on, John, shout out to Matsuzawa-san, who was the meme wrestler of 2019 before Lulu Pencil came along. Yeah.
Anything else in Joshi that we were forgetting? Any other promotions or anything? I can't.
Well, can I?
Go on, Taylor.
Ahead.
I was going to say Diana had
Oh.
a match between Aja Kong and Sari, which never made tape, which is going to sting for a while, I think.
Yeah, I mean the highlights made it like the fucking match of the decade, and well, apparently we're never getting the actual match.
It's funny. I was going to say the exact same thing. I was going to scold Diana because it's funny. Last year they created a YouTube where they were uploading matches, and then seemingly at the end of the year or the top of this year, they just stopped doing it. So it was not accessible at all. 2018, it became more accessible, and now it's back to becoming less accessible. And the idea of that match between Sari and Aja Kong not coming out is just absolutely wild to me. But I guess it is what it is. But if anyone who has connections to Pro Wrestling Diana is listening to this podcast in hour 2 or wherever we are, release that match, please.
And let us see Madeline wrestle as well. I still haven't seen Madeline wrestle.
Did that other one close down that was like very connected to Mexico?
Reina.
I can't remember the name. Reina, thank you.
God
it closed down, right?
I think it's in some sort of afterlife situation. But yeah.
I feel like that's the only closure I've heard about in a while, so that's good.
Yeah.
There used to be a time when you're a Joshi fan where it was like, who closed this week? So
well, if Stardom and Tokyo Joshi want to play things a certain way, then we might be back to that, but fingers crossed.
At least this time there would be a big promotion though. The last time the closure's happening, there was nobody. So all right, let's get to the award picks, and the giant mailbag we have. So we're going to start out with match of the year. I have a top 10. I know Taylor has a top 10. Do you have a top 10, Luke?
I do.
Okay, so 10th place, I went with the Goddesses of Stardom Tag League Red Block, Maya Iwatani and Saki Kashima versus Momo Watanabe and Azumi from their October 14th Korakuen. I thought this was just a really, really, really fun tag sprint. Really showed off why Azumi has so much potential. And I just really love this match a lot. So that's why I voted 10th place. Luke, what do you have here for 10th?
Number 10, Yuka Sakazaki versus Shoko Nakajima from Ultimate Party on the 3rd of November. This was one of those matches where my heart was still in my mouth the whole time, even on rewatch, like even when I knew what the result was. I just thought they paced it brilliantly, and yeah, it really rose to the occasion. I think they really shined on that stage. So
now I have to say now I made an executive decision on my part not to include that match because it was a DDT match to me, not a Tokyo Joshi match. But if I had decided to include it, it would have made my top 10. So yeah. Awesome match. Taylor, what do you have 10th place?
My number 10 is Riho versus Emi Sakura from Gatoh Move's Last Song for You on July 2nd. It was Riho's farewell match in Gatoh Move, so obviously a very emotions were very high, and I thought it was an excellent, obviously I think Riho is one of the best, as people have seen in AEW. Emi, of course, is a legend, and, I thought it was just a great in-ring match with the added, emotional effect of it being Riho's last match.
My 9th place, I have Meiko Satomura versus Reika Saiki from Tokyo Joshi's January 4th Korakuen, in what was kind of a down year for them. Work rate rise, I thought this was the best Tokyo Joshi match of the year. Again, not including the one in DDT, but this was a really awesome power battle. Really, Reika got to really show what she could do here. Unfortunately, she did not return to Tokyo Joshi after a little while longer, but still a really awesome match here. One of Meiko's best guest appearance matches of the year, because she didn't do a lot of them this year for whatever reason.
Yeah, my number 9 is from Marvelous, 9th of September, Mei Hoshizuki versus Chikayo Nagashima. I mentioned it earlier, but this was, for me, the best of the appearances made by any of the Marvelous rookies all year. Absolutely, electric crowd. And Hoshizuki actually kind of surpassing Mio Momono in some ways, I think, in terms of just speed and kind of annoyingness. So yeah, absolutely fantastic match. I can't imagine it's one that lots of people listening to this will have checked out, so do watch that if you get the chance.
Taylor?
My number 9 is Dash Chizako versus Seri from Sendai Girls on April 27th. I think as we go up the list here, it'll become pretty clear that Seri had a great year, and I think this Dash match was really great, and I think sort of got buried in the hype behind a lot of other matches that also deserved a lot of hype. But we mentioned her earlier. Dash is really great, and I think sometimes maybe not under pushed is the right word, but underappreciated in Sendai Girls, and I just thought they had a great hard hitting match.
My 8th place match from the 5-star Grand Prix Blue Stars block, Utami Hayashi Shida versus Arisa Hoshiki from August 18th in Shinkiba. Utami, she got derailed this year due to injuries after she obviously was an amazing rookie year last year, but this was her highlight other than one other match, so actually she had an even better match. But I thought she was awesome here. This was one of those matches that really looked like a fight, which I always really enjoy. And, I think she continued to show why she is probably a big future star for Stardom. And obviously Hoshiki, really came into her own, after winning the white belt from Momo. So this is another example of that.
My number 8 is Nanai Takahashi versus Takumi Iroha from SEAdLINNG 29th of May at Korakuen Hall. I actually preferred this match to the Takahashi Nakajima match. As far as kind of big dumb, lots of finisher kick out epics go, this is probably my favorite of that type of match all year. It felt like just a battle between two kind of heavy hitters who just kept hitting each other with their best shots but couldn't find an opening, and then eventually Iroha manages to find this kind of tiny opening, and it was really, really exciting stuff.
Taylor?
My number 8 is Momo Watanabe versus Utami Hayashishita at American Dream in the Big Apple on April 5th. I was there live. Just thought it was a stellar match. Great crowd, felt like a big moment. And two great wrestlers having a great match. So, yeah.
My number 7, the Super Asia title, Riho and Mei Suruga from Gatoh Move on June 4th in Shinkiba. As mentioned earlier, I was at this show, so that obviously gives it a live bump. And Riho, if you see a lot of Riho, and obviously she's the big underdog in AEW, but if you want to see her as like the bully veteran who can beat her up somebody who is, if not smaller, I think she's smaller than her. I'm pretty sure she is actually, because May is like 4'11". I think Riho's like 5 something or 5, either 5 even or 5'1". Either way, if they're not, if she's not smaller than about the same size, and she's great here as like the the veteran bully who's like just beating the crap out of May. So great match. Very happy I got to see it live, and definitely one you should check out if you like Riho at AEW and haven't seen her Gatoh stuff. Luke?
Yeah. My number 7 is Momo Watanabe versus Arisa Hoshiki from STARDOM, 16th of May. I mentioned it earlier. The finish to this match was just pitch perfect in terms of ending a kind of like year-long title reign for Momo, and passing the belt on to this kind of new star. It's one of the best finishes to a match I think I've ever seen. So yeah, it deserves a spot on the list just for that.
Taylor?
My number 7 is Arisa Nakajima versus Asuka from SEAdLINNG Stay Tuned 2019 on May 29th. It's a bit funny because we haven't really talked about Asuka much. She's sort of been all over the place this year, and I think has been having an incredible year. Both in Joshi Promotions and in DDT as well. Arisa Nakajima, as I mentioned the last time I was on this show, is my favorite wrestler in the world. So I just thought it was a great match, a great showing for Asuka sort of earlier in the year when her star was just starting to rise. So definitely one worth checking out.
As coincidence would have it, my number 6 match of the year is the SEAdLINNG Beyond the Sea title, Nanae Takahashi versus Asuka from the SEAdLINNG March 20th Korakuen. So I agree, Asuka had a great year in DDT and elsewhere, but I really liked this match a lot. I thought it was a classic, like two Joshi ladies just screaming at each other and beating the shit out of each other, and weapons got involved and everything. I thought this was just a really outstanding match, and if this fell under the radar for you being early in the year and the promotion not as many people watch, definitely go check that one out with Nanae and Asuka.
I was at that match.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. My number 6 is Tsukushi versus Maika Ozaki versus Satsuki Totoro from Ice Ribbon, 9th of February. This was a match similar to the Catch the Wave block decider from last year. So it's a triple threat match, but it's done as a series of singles matches, and you have to win 2 singles matches in a row to win the match, if that makes sense. So when one person wins one singles match, the loser goes out, the next person comes in, and if you can win 2 in a row, you win the whole thing. It was a number 1 contenders match, and they used that stipulation so well that it made me question why that's not the way that everybody does 3-way matches. It had this amazing sense of urgency as all the wrestlers got more tired and like managed to close out one match, but then had to go straight into another against an opponent that had time to rest. And Tsukushi, as I'll get into later, I think I just think she's had a remarkable year in ring, and this was kind of her match. She won it. So yeah, again, one that might be off quite a lot of people's radars, but definitely worth checking out.
Taylor?
So mine is Momo Watanabe versus Jungle Kiona from Stardom World in Nagoya on March 3rd. I feel like every great Jungle Kyona match is a bit bittersweet, as she usually is the loser of the match. But thought this was great, really just what you would expect from these two, hard-hitting, very dramatic. So I thought it was an excellent match.
Jungle's from Nagoya, right?
Yes, it was a hometown show, yeah.
I have 5th place, Wonder of Stardom title, Momo Watanabe versus Jungle Kyona. Stardom March 3rd, Nagoya International Conference Hall. So you just talked about it, but yes, I thought this was outstanding. Up there for the Stardom match of the year, just below the one I picked, which is coming up. But just an amazing match, and the hometown factor I think really added more heat to this match than you normally see in a lot of Stardom matches. So that was something. Luke,
I may have that coming up, but my number 5 is Miyuki Takase versus Himeka Arita from Actwres Girls, 6th of November, their Korakuen Hall show, and the final of their tournament to crown a new champion after Reika Saiki had to vacate the belt. So Takase and Arita were tag team partners for most of the year. This was the first singles match between the two I'd ever seen. And it works so well. Arita is like bigger than nearly every Joshi wrestler she faces. Takase is quite small, but has this kind of like big brute in a small person's body vibe. And they just matched up so well. It was a really simple match, just like lots of lariats and stuff like that. But so much feeling in it. And I was really, really happy that Takase won the belt. It's my number 5.
What was the date on that one more time?
6th of November.
Okay, cool.
It's on Nico.
Awesome. And Taylor, your next 5th place.
So my number 5 is Hiroyo Matsumoto versus Mayumi Osaki from Oz Academy Yokohama Shining on August 25th. As I mentioned during the Oz Academy portion, Oz Academy is a bit of a acquired taste, but I think that this is sort of the peak of what it can be. This was an exploding bat death match. A lot going on. It was the main event of the show. A lot going on pretty much from the first bell to the closing bell, but just really great. I always love exploding bat death matches. I think they're so wild and crazy that I really like them, even though they don't happen all that often. But I thought that this one was really, really good.
Up next, I have my 4th place match, which was the Sendai Girls World Title and Diana World Title. Sari and Chihiro Hashimoto on Sendai Girls, June 8th in Niigata. I thought this was just an amazing match, right below my top 3. It was really, I went back and forth if I like this one or the next one better. It may have just been the live bump for the next one. But this was a really awesome match. Felt like an absolute war between these two. I thought it was clearly better than the other Sari Chihiro match, and just an amazing match. So one I'm going to remember for a while to come. Luke, your 4th
Number
place?
4 for me is Momo Watanabe Jungle Kyona from Nagoya. This was my match of the year for a while when I first watched it. Even despite the sadness of Kyona losing, I just thought they went to war, and it's amazing. But you've already talked about it, so Taylor.
Well, I have the same number 4 as John. Hashimoto versus Sari, the double title match from June. So it's been covered. Great hard-hitting match. Obviously, Hashimoto is built like a tank, but Sari sometimes, I think, likes to think that she's built that way with the way that she strikes. So I just thought it was an amazing match.
3rd place, the Wonder of Stardom title, Momo Watanabe and Utami Hashishida from April 5th in New York City Arena. This one I have quite a bit above where Taylor had it. I just thought, again, being in the building, being so hyped for this, for probably my 2 favorite wrestlers in Stardom, facing each other and getting to be there for that match. And I thought they lived up to the hype, and it was right there, right below Naito Ibushi from MSG for my favorite match of the entire weekend. So just a really, really awesome match that I was so happy to be there for. So, just totally delivered. And I thought the crowd was super into it and, even elevated the match. But the two of them, they put on an amazing match, but also one where by the end you're like, they could probably have an even better one someday. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, to have it third place and say that is something. So these are two very talented wrestlers. Luke, third
my
place.
number three is Mei Suruga versus Ann Chamu from Gatoh Move, 2nd of March in Ichigaya Chocolate Square. Even more than the next match, which I've got coming up. This is sort of a match that broke my brain a little bit. It's 7 minutes long or less. It takes place in a converted dentist's waiting room between two wrestlers who are, I think, both less than 2 years into their career. But it just felt more essential, more real, more urgent, more characterful, more everything than like 95% of wrestling. Well, more than that, 99% of wrestling that I watched this year. So that is right there on YouTube, available for you to check out. 2nd of March. Hopefully it'll break your brains too.
Taylor, third place.
My number 3 is Seri versus Tsukasa Fujimoto from Ice Ribbon 992 on September 14th. I really loved this match, two of my favorite wrestlers. A lot of people, had a problem at the end with Fujimoto sort of spamming the finisher. Which I actually really liked, something you don't really see a lot, which is someone just sort of trying to hit the same move over and over again to finish the match. But it's sort of what you would expect from these two, very hard hitting, not holding anything back. Excellent match.
Number 2, I have the SEAdLINNNG Beyond the Sea title, hair versus hair, Nanae Takahashi and Arisa Nakajima from SEAdLINNNG November 2nd, Colts Kawasaki. This is so the top 2 matches here are both 5-star matches for me. They're both as close to, they're both basically, as far as I can tell, perfect wrestling matches, and exactly what I watch professional wrestling for. And they're right at the top of my overall match of the year list with Naito Shingo and Naito Ibushi from New Japan. So this is just in it. As far as two women just beating the absolute fucking shit out of each other, which is exactly what I started watching Joshi, what drew me to Joshi in the first place. I mean, this is it. It gets so gross at times that I can understand why someone might even not want to watch it. But it is just a brutal, brutal match. The two of them absolutely murder each other from the opening bell. It fits the level of hate that, from the build up. And even if the good thing about that too, is even if you hadn't followed the feud, you could catch up pretty much just from the fucking promo, where they just make it, even in a language you might not understand, they make it absolutely clear how much these two women have come to hate each other. And it totally works, for that build up, for the gravity of the hair versus hair stipulation, which, is obviously a classic thing in Joshi. Just an amazing match, incredible. I find it hard to believe someone could even watch this and be let down for what it is. If it's just not your thing, that's fine, but it's just an incredible match.
Number 2 for me was, I could probably apply a lot of what you just said about that match to this one. Tsukasa Fujimoto versus Tintin from Ice Ribbon, 31st of March at Korakuen Hall. Tintin is a giant panda. But the really smart thing about this match is, okay, so they did this amazing kind of build up where Fujimoto had been accused of having an affair with Andres the giant panda. So and this was based on photos that had been taken at the Tokyo Sports end of year awards ceremony. So then Andres' wife Tintin kind of like challenges Fujimoto to a fight. She gets people from the offices of Tokyo Sports to like hold up signs saying "Answer my challenge, Fujimoto" and stuff like that. Like this build went beyond Ice Ribbon's universe into kind of the sporting press. But then when they do the match, Suka she's up against this giant panda who's so much bigger than her, but Suka's like the bully, and it's like she's bullying a rookie, and you sort of remember like, oh, Tintin's never wrestled a match before. This is her first time in a ring. So they built it up one way, but then they took it another way once the bell had rung. And I just thought it was incredibly smart. It ended up, you thought it was going to be one thing, but then it ended up speaking to so many other things. And, aside from anything else, it's a match where Fujimoto took a choke slam from a giant inflatable suit. So, yeah, like masterful stuff.
Taylor?
John, I think we're going to be in lockstep here at the end of this list, because I also had Nakajima versus Takahashi from SEAdLINNG on November 2nd. Talked about it in the last show I was on here, but Nakajima's my favorite wrestler. This is the end of a sort of a story that's been going on for quite a while. Exactly my type of match, just going out, two people just trying to destroy each other, and thought it was amazing.
So why don't you talk about your number one first, because I know we have the same number one.
All right. So my number one was Meiko Satomura versus Sarii. As you've probably heard already from my previous entry, Sarii is all over this list, but this was sort of the first. This was her sort of first match that broke out of this year, which I was really happy about. I've been a Sarii fan for a number of years. But after she left SEAdLINNG, it was a little bit difficult to see her matches. Sometimes Diana would upload them on their now seemingly defunct YouTube channel. But I was really happy to see her be able to have this breakout year, have so many good matches. And I think that this match versus Meiko was sort of the height of it in terms of just, I'm sort of repeating myself, as you can see, the sort of match I enjoy, but two people going out, hitting hard. It's a very quick match. So if you don't have much time or you're in a time crunch, you could probably watch this very quickly. Because it goes from the beginning to the end. It's go, hit. And just an incredible match, and definitely far and away my number one match of the year.
Yeah, so I have the same thing. Meiko and Sarii, which is Sendai Girls, on their April 16th Korakuen. Again, a 5-star match. I mean, I just spoil it right now. This is my overall match of the year, and probably will be unless something really shocks me. So this is, in December, which I don't see happening. But this was like, as far as I'm concerned, again, pretty much the perfect match. I don't know what there is to nitpick with it. They went out there with a very simple story, which is Meiko is the veteran and Sarii is this upstart in the company from outside the company. And Meiko doesn't take her seriously at first, but Sarii just comes back and just fucking kicks her ass by the end. And they tell that story in a very concise way. The match only goes like 15 minutes, but it's almost the Joshi equivalent in some ways of that Ishii Shibata match from the G1 in 2013. It goes a little bit longer, but it's just nonstop action from the moment the bell rings until the end. And the fact that they still managed to tell a story by doing that without pretty much, again, ever stopping or ever having any they just go at such a fucking fast pace, and they still manage to tell a very complete story in the match is really an amazing accomplishment. So, I had this my match of the year in April, and nothing has beaten it. I just don't think there was a better wrestling match this year. It's a match I'm going to remember, probably until the day I die. So anytime you have a match that sticks out to you that much, it's probably your match of the year.
My match of the year has already been mentioned, and it also has Sarii in it, but it's the double title match versus Chihiro Hashimoto from Sendai Girls, 8th of June. Sarii is just one of those wrestlers, isn't she, who can just make you completely believe in what she's doing. I think that, especially with the way that AEW have gone about this, there's been quite a bit of talk about real sports feel and what that means in pro wrestling. for me, like real sports, the moments of drama in real sports are always more dramatic than the moments of drama that, you know, the majority of moments of drama you get in pro wrestling, purely because they're not scripted and you don't see them coming. And Sari, when I'm watching her matches, I feel like I'm watching a real athlete. Like I feel like I'm watching a real sporting competition, just because I think she understands competition, like, and she understands what that looks like. And a lot of her matches, the drama of her matches, are about her seizing these tiny moments where she can turn the match on its head. And this was a match where she was kind of bullied and dominated by Hashimoto, and had to use her kind of technical know-how to work out a way out of this situation. And I think I watched it like 4 times in a row the first time I saw it, and every time I spotted a new detail. So yeah, incredible match, and my number one for the year.
All right, so we spent a lot of time on the match of your list, so let's try to go faster through
the
rest of these awards. But hopefully you found a lot of new matches to check out if you're listening. I know I did, actually, from Luke's list especially. Feud of the year. Let's just all give our top 3 real quick. I went Chihiro Hashimoto, Sari from Sendai in third, which are, two really good matches, and not this was the only award where not a ton stood out to me compared to the other awards. So maybe it's just the promotions I watch. But yeah, Chihiro and Sari in third. Neo Bishiki-gun versus Rika Tatsumi / Miyu Watanabe and Tokyo Joshi in second, which I thought was like the highlight of their year, and told a really good story. And then I went with Nanae Takahashi and Arisa Nakajima from SEAdLINNNG in first, which, just felt like the build was just better than the build to anything else I saw this year. So felt like an easy number 1. Luke?
Number 3, Mei Suruga, Emi Sakura. This was kind of something that started from the moment Mei Suruga debuted, but they had a lot of memorable clashes in singles and tag matches this year, and I think they're kind of building up to be, well, they're obviously building up to be career rivals, so that's great. 2, Sari Hashimoto, just because of the sheer quality of the wrestling they produced together. Number 1, Suzu Suzuki and Asahi in Ice Ribbon. So these 2 rookies, Suzu got the win over Asahi in her debut match at Ribbon Mania last year with a German suplex hold, which is an incredible thing to see a debutante performing, and sort of had the upper hand on Asahi for most of the year. And it just produced this really, really beautiful rivalry that still is kind of ongoing, hasn't had its blow off yet. So yeah, that was my favorite feud of the year.
Taylor?
So I only did one for this category, and it was Nakajima versus Takahashi. And, I think it's been covered, so yeah.
Promotion of the year. Obviously, this is one of 2 episodes where we can actually do that. I have Tokyo Joshi in third. Normally, when we do the real awards, that'll count as part of DDT, but I just put them as their own thing here. I didn't think they had an amazing year like last year, but still enough where I really enjoyed following them week to week or month to month. SEAdLINNNG in second, where just almost everything I saw from them was a certain baseline of good, and they just made such a lot of great strides this year. And STARDOM in first, I just thought, again, they had a really great year as far as like in-ring goes, as far as, introducing or getting over talent like Arisa Hoshiki goes. And like, I don't know, it just feels like they really clicked on all cylinders this year. And, they're probably going to be, they're for sure going to make my overall top 3. So I thought they just had a really outstanding year.
For me, I've got SEAdLINNNG at number 3 for reasons that I've mentioned. They seem like the best kind of most exciting crossroads for people from different promotions and freelancers at the moment. They always put on great cards. Number 2, I've got Ice Ribbon. Again, for reasons I've gone into, I think every one of their big shows was built beautifully. They've done so much interesting stuff this year, and just their roster is just one of the most interesting rosters in Joshi. And number 1, Gatoh Move. Just I think they do wrestling like no other promotion, and getting to see so much more of them this year has just been, it's changed the way I think about wrestling, to be honest. So they have to be my number 1.
Taylor?
The reasons have sort of been covered, so I'll just say my number 3 was Stardom, my number 2 was Gatoh Move, and my number 1 was SEAdLINNNG.
Best major show, I have SEAdLINNNG, Dynamic Showcase, Kawasaki, Monogatari in third. Even with the choppy editing from Samurai, I just thought this was a really fun show with a match of the year main event. So there you go. Number 2, I have Stardom, American Dream, and the Big Apple. It was the best Joshi live show I attended. It had a really unique atmosphere. I thought the elimination main event was even very underrated. And then again, had a really awesome Momo Utami match. And my favorite overall show was Tokyo Joshi Pro, the Mountaintop, I Will Not Lose to Anyone, September 1st in Osaka. Didn't have like the standout matches the other ones, but just as far as overall enjoyment from start to finish, it was a really a high level show for me, and just a really, really fun show that I think could have flown under the radar if you weren't paying attention. So there you go.
At 3, I've got Ice Ribbon Ice in Wonderland 2019. This was the kind of final stages of the tournament they had to decide the main event at Yokohama Bunker. This was 24th of August, Korakuen Hall. And so it had a main event, or it kind of had a double main event. Rina Yamashita versus Maya Yuki was an incredible match. Maya Yuki had a match against Ram Kaicho earlier in the night, which was kind of fascinating. It was just one of those wall-to-wall banger kind of shows. Number 2, I've got SEAdLINNNG Stay Tuned. This was the one that had Iroha Takahashi, and it also had probably my favorite tag match of the year, which was the beginning, Takase and Arita versus Hiroyu Matsumoto and Amazon. And it also had that amazing Nakajima Asuka match. So just packed with really great stuff. And number 1, despite me saying, I didn't think they had the best year, Tokyo Joshi, Korakuen Hall, 4th of January. Just for that triple header with the Saiki Satomura, the Riho and Nakajima versus Magical Sugar Rabbits, and then Miyu Yamashita v Maki Ito. Like I was crying for maybe the last hour of that show. So Tokyo Joshi do big shows better than anyone now, I think, for all their faults. So yeah, that's my number 1.
My number 3 was SEAdLINNNG Dynamic Showcase. My number 2 was Stardom, American Dream, and the Big Apple. And my number 1 was Oz Academy, Yokohama Shining. Mentioned it before, the main event was in my top 10 matches of the year, but the tag title semi-main was also great, and I thought the rest of the show was very good as well. So that's my number 1 show of the year.
Tag team of the year, I have Saki-sama and Masao in third. I just didn't think the match quality was high enough to go higher, but they were still a really interesting team. Momo Watanabe and Azumi from Stardom in second, which I'm just basing off their tag league run, which I absolutely loved. And I went with Mizuki and Yuka Sakazaki, the Magical Sugar Rabbits, in first, because as they held the titles only until June 9th, and then they were done as a team. But man, that was a great 6 months, or 5 months or whatever. So that's my 3 picks.
I could have put them in, but I had a feeling someone else might. So I've tried to kind of represent some under the radar picks. Number 3, Burning Raw from Ice Ribbon. That's Tequila Saya and Julia. They just had such an interesting dynamic as a team, which is kind of my justification for all these teams on the list. My number 2 is Mei Suriga and Mei Hoshizuki, who tagged together in SEAdLINNNG. Their matches are just so much fun to watch. And number 1, the beginning, Miyuki Takase and Himeka Arita. I mentioned their singles match at Korakuen Hall as one of my matches of the year, but their team work together was also really must see. This great dynamic with Arita as the giant and Takase as the person who thinks she's a giant. It just works so well together. So yeah, they're my number 1 team of the year.
This is another one. I only have one again, and mine was Magical Sugar Rabbits. As John already mentioned, thought they had a great beginning of the year, maybe the highlight of Tokyo Joshi's first half of the year. So they were my number 1.
Most outstanding and wrestler of the year. These two, I had such a hard time narrowing down picks because there were just so many wrestlers in Joshi. I feel like were awesome this year. So most outstanding, I went with Mako in third. I thought she just kept chugging along as awesome as ever and gets a lot of credit for a match of the year, but appeared elsewhere on the list. And, everything she was in was great. Momo Watanabe in second. She lost her push towards the back half, but even then she was awesome in like tag team stuff. So it felt like she never like quit being great. But I just can't justify putting her first, but I mean, she's just so great. And number one, Sari. I mean, this, even though the 2 and 3 were hard to pick, but one, I kind of figured she would be number one. She just, everything I saw her in was outstanding.
Yeah, most outstanding. I've sort of gone with people who didn't necessarily get the big title pushes that others got. So in number 3, I've got Miyuki Takase. I just find her so compelling to watch, and I've enjoyed every single one of her matches this year. She just kind of knows how to project in the ring, and it just makes her matches really stand out for me. And she's getting the kind of credit she deserves now. She had a tag title run in SEAdLINNG, and now she's Actwres Girls singles champion. So that's a happy ending for her this year. Number 2, Tsukushi. She was the best wrestler in Ice Ribbon this year, which is saying something because they have a lot of very good wrestlers. For anything from Korakuen Hall main events to like tiny dojo shows, she just gave it her all, and she's just a wizard. And number 1, most outstanding, Mei Suruga, who I think is in the process of reinventing pro wrestling as we know it. She's got some sort of like alien intelligence for how wrestling works, and I can't wait to see how her career unfolds. But she was my favorite wrestler to watch this year.
Taylor?
So my number 3 was Arisa Nakajima. As I said, she's my favorite wrestler, so I think I have some personal bias there, but she had a great year. My second one's a little bit of a fudge. I said Asuka. She had a lot sort of outside of the world of Joshi that was excellent, but I sort of count her in this world, and some of the great stuff she had was in the world of Joshi, as I mentioned on my top 10. And my number 1 was Sari. As you could tell, I had her multiple times on my top 10 list, so I think that she was, head and shoulders the number 1 choice for me.
Wrestler of the year, I went with Hana Kimura in third. I thought, her big push and starting with her own unit, really was an important part of their year. She really came into her own in-ring wise too in the 5-star finally, and just seems to be really popular on both sides of the Pacific. So I thought she was like the big breakout star in Stardom this year. So that's why I went with her in third. I went with Nanai Takahashi in second. She was champion through May. She had a big year where it finally felt like her promotion started to get out of neutral. She again started a new unit, and all of her in-ring stuff was awesome. So I thought she was a clear contender here. And then Sari in first. It was just her year. She reigned as champion everywhere, and she was outstanding in ring and just on top all over the place. So rest of the year, I think it's pretty. I don't think that one's a tough decision, but 2 and 3 were tough. There were a lot of people I could have gone with.
I've escaped. It was so tough to pick. Sari's my number 1 for the exact reasons you've said. It was so tough to pick a number 2 and 3 though. So I've just given a cop-out answer of Miyu Yamashita, Momo Watanabe, Chihiro Hashimoto, Maya Yuki, Tsukasa Fujimoto, Takumi Iroha, Nanai Takahashi, and Sari Ano. So they're my 2 and 3. All the aces, basically. Like there were so many good aces this year, but Sari was the best of them. So.
Yeah, and I went Nanae Takahashi in third, Maya Yuki in second, and Sari in first.
All right. So let's get into the questions. There's a lot that we covered already, so I'm going to skip a lot of questions. So I apologize if I skipped your question because it's something we already covered. At Akiba Sasha on Twitter, with Andres Miyagi leaving, Hazuki retiring, and the steady rise of Superhero Hana, do you think Oedo Tai is on its way out soon?
Well, they weren't on that poster, were they? That's been made for some sort of upcoming event. But I don't know if we should read too much into that. I mean, Stardom
Could be an angle.
shuffles. Yeah, it could be an angle. Stardom shuffles factions a lot anyway, so they've just had the most longevity. I don't know. They have to. I mean, Bushiroad are, a business first and foremost, and they have to be looking at the numbers. And I would guess Oedo Tai sell quite a lot of merch, so I don't know.
Yeah. And I want to say, when it comes to skipping questions, we got a million questions that were like, what's the Stardom purchase going to mean? I think we covered that a lot at the start of the episode, so that's why I'm skipping any questions like that. Taylor, do you have any thoughts on Oedo Tai?
Well, it's interesting because a couple years back, they sort of split off of Oedo Tai and became a different Oedo Tai. I think they're technically seen as two different groups, even though they're called the same thing and they had wrestlers in common. And I do wonder if something like that happens again, where a certain subsect of the group sort of splits off and forms their own version of it, sort of version 3 of the group, because there is some historical precedence for that happening. But I think, as you said, there is some interest in, selling the merch, and they are, well liked by the fans. So I don't know that I would break them up, but, it's certainly possible.
At Empress Consort, what's the best variation of the Goodnight Express?
Wasn't the one where, maybe this was from last year, where someone, I think it might have been you, picked Raku up and rocked her to sleep and then sat on the person they were pinning. I might have just made that up, but I feel like that's my favorite of all the variations that I've seen.
Yeah, that does sound, now I'm thinking of that does sound familiar, yeah.
Yeah.
Tokyo Cyber Alex, which 2019 rookie do you see having the biggest 2020?
Ooh.
I'm going to throw Mariah. I'm going to put Mariah in the contention.
Yeah.
She's already got an amazing lariat, and I think she's got a lot of room to grow.
Well, she's ready. If they want to push her, she's ready. That's just whether
Joshi. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just whether they do want to push her that much. I'm not sure. Maria is clearly very favored by Nanai Takahashi, so we could see her kind of rise through the ranks a bit. But there's quite a crowd now, I guess, in SEAdLINNG with these units, so it would take a bit of effort. I think I'll go with Mirai as well, or Suzume maybe, because she's pretty good too.
I mean, I think it could be any one of those marvelous rookies. I think in a year, if you told me that one of them broke out, really any one of the big three, I would believe you. So they would sort of be my cop-out pick, is all three of them.
At Noah Savior, Alex, who's a former guest on the show, with Joshi wrestlers getting the most TV screen time in the U.S. since WCW, who would you like to see pop up in AEW? To me, number one with a bullet here, which seems very possible given the relationship, is Miyu Yamashita. I think it will happen, but I just think, she brings a very kick-heavy element that even, to a degree that Hikaru Shida can't even really match. And if I have one complaint about the Joshi in AEW, it feels like they tell them to fucking, pull back and not hit as hard or whatever. I want to see Miyu go out there and fucking kick some people in the face. I'm sick of this shit. Just let them kick people. Anyway.
Yeah, that would make for some pretty great matches. I wonder if Emmy will bring anyone else from Gatoh Move along. I'm going to say Lulu Pencil. just for the takes it would create.
She did get a shout. She did get a shout out on commentary. So
she did
in universe.
They're setting things up, yeah.
My sort of gatekeeping answer, not to say this, would be I don't really need anyone to go over there because I like watching them, where they are, and I feel the same way you do, John. That I think someone backstage is being like, "Hey, don't go," I know over in Japan, you kick really hard, but don't do that, which sort of has, and then it happens that people go, well, it's Joshi. I don't know about this. And you're like, well, yeah, it's not the same. Just watch, a Stardom show or a, Tokyo Joshi show or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like the one that annoys me the most is Riho, because it's like, oh, she's so light. Like she fucking kicks people in the head in Japan. She fucking drop kicks them right in the head when they're leaning against the ropes. I never see her do anything like that in AEW. So
one person that I would guess is going to pop up in AEW soon, and it would be very sad if they didn't let her hit people hard, is Ryo Mizunami. I mean, I think she'll get over just with her kind of gimmick. And I would really like to see that, because I have had a really nice time watching the Joshi matches in AEW just because of how much people get into them. And it's like, yeah, no shit. Joshi's like really good. It's like better than the other stuff on the card.
I want to say too, even with those caveats, I still do think a lot of the Joshi matches have been their best matches.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm not that high on the AEW men's roster. But yeah, I mean, look, the Joshi matches in AEW are good, and they're better than a lot of people say they are. But the Joshi wrestlers are also better in Japan. Mm-hmm. So both those things can be true, I guess.
And if Ryo Mizunami goes to AEW, they better shell out for Pitbull.
Yes.
Yeah. They won't.
They won't, but they should.
Yeah. At Grapplestein, which promotion grew the most in 2019? I guess Stardom, right? I can't really see any other answer.
Maybe Stardom in a certain sense, but also Gatoh Move in terms of their platform, I think. If we're talking cold hard cash, then yeah, definitely Stardom. But Gatoh Move have set up a platform for themselves in 2020, which they absolutely did not have at the beginning of this year. So
yeah, Gatoh Move was my first thought, just because I feel like a lot of the Bushiroad stuff is sort of people, they're obviously there and things are going to start happening, but nothing has really happened yet. It's sort of all anticipatory, and obviously we know it will happen. It's not going to, it's not an if, it's a when, but it hasn't happened yet. So my first thought was also Gatoh Move.
At Downward Spirals, is SEAdLINNG the best in-ring Joshi product this year? I think it's either them or Sendai, probably. But both of them are really close.
Yeah, I think in terms of the variety it offers, like that it can have these big kind of epic main events, which they've been doing really well this year. Like I think this has been a particularly good in-ring year for Nanai. But also, they throw those into the mix with high-speed matches and with kind of fun like 6-man tags and stuff like that. So in terms of everything being different and everything being good, to paraphrase Tokyo Cyber Squad, I think there's definitely an argument to be made there.
And they were my number one promotion of the year, so I think, to me, the answer is yes.
Puro Prairie Podcast, what are your top 3 most wanted Gatoh Move debuts?
Well, Miyako Matsumoto would be a fun one, considering she's no longer with Ice Ribbon. I assume she's never worked for Gatoh Move before, but it would be really nice now that she's got this whole Gake no Fuchi Pro thing that she's launching in the new year, to see her reconnect with her trainer. That's my submission. What about you, Taylor?
I'm trying to... This is like a tough one because I go through a lot. Like, Sasadango Machine hasn't wrestled for them, has he?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that would be a good one, just sort of off the top of my head. Sort of going from going through Honda, who's obviously great in Gatoh Move. I think there's so many. We could probably be here all day naming people who would be a lot of fun. So
I have a good one. It's somebody who, it's a man, first of all, and there are male wrestlers in Gatoh Move a lot. It's a very underutilized wrestler by his home promotion this year. I mean, he keeps getting stuck on YouTube a lot, and I feel like he needs a platform to really show what he can do. He might as well go to a good YouTube promotion if he's going to be on YouTube all the time. So a little-known wrestler by the name of Kenny Omega, I think, would be a good one. And I think he has some good comedy chops in his background, so I think he would be a...
But you are aware that he's been there before.
Wouldn't be a debut.
Oh, you're right. I did that whole setup for that joke, and but Gatoh Move return. That is all right now. What do you see in the future for YMZ?
The Korakuen show. I mean, it was also Yoniyama's 20th anniversary, so it's maybe not something that's going to be replicated every year. But I could sort of see them. I mean, they must have had so much fun making that show. It was such a kind of, a weird and wonderful card. I just feel like they've done Korakuen Hall once. Why couldn't they make it an annual thing now? And it's just going to make it more appealing, get the name out there and make it more appealing for wrestlers of all stripes to go and work there. So, fingers crossed that they kind of just keep going in the same direction, because I think what they do is so great, but just expand and
I'm not
sustainable.
sure that there's any. I'm struggling to think of something like sort of a goal beyond sort of keep doing what they're doing. Obviously doing, bigger venues like Korakuen is fun, but it's not vital for me, at least. I don't know what the companies, I don't know what their finances are like. It's something I've never even really thought about. But I mean, I like I love the Korakuen show, but I also love the, little small shows in front of, 25 or 30 people. So yeah, I would say keep doing what they're doing. Shida went to the US full time, or at least, mostly full time now. So they, have sort of a top spot that maybe they could replace with someone fun. But other than that, just keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
At Spirit of Jazz, which one of Chigusa's child soldiers will have the best showing in 2020? I think we kind of covered this a little bit, but is anybody?
I think Hoshizuki might really come into her own, but I mean that's just a hunch. I think because she's my favorite. But that showing she had with Nagashima, which was in my match of the year list, was like, it very promising sign of what's to come. So fingers crossed.
I was going to say the same thing, but to be different now, I'll change my answer and say Maria.
At Love Songwriter, who was your Joshi breakout star this year? I think you kind of have to go with Suri here, because she, like Taylor was saying, she was barely on tape last year, and she kind of took over the scene. If you want to go with Lulu Pencil as well, you could do that too. But I think Suri's the biggest answer, probably the easy one.
I'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels. I mean, it's the correct answer. It does feel a little bit strange because she did, have a platform because she was in SEAdLINNG for a while and she was having good matches and then sort of disappeared. So sort of the, if this was a sport, she might also get, like most improved player in terms of actually getting out there and getting her matches on tape, which is probably, the breakout. So Lulu Pencil would be one, or Matsuzawa-san.
Miyuki Takase as well. I think like she showed promise last year in her appearances in Wave and stuff, but she's just broken out so much this year and has kind of just shone in every setting she's been put into. So Wave, SEAdLINNG, back home in Actwres Girls, Ice Ribbon. So yeah, she's really come into her own this year, as far as I'm concerned.
At Past Reset, who are the next top opponents for Mei Suruga as she quietly outperforms the Cody List thing?
Yeah, because she's had singles matches now with Masahiro Takanashi, which was a great match. She's had loads with Emi Sakura. She had that one with Rio that was in your list. I don't know. Like I'd love to see it. She has been in DDT before. Right at the beginning of her career, and I'd love to see her go back to DDT, and I'm trying to think who would be a good person for her to work with there though. What do you reckon? You guys watch more DDT than me.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I would love her to be a Saki Akai trial match.
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
The height difference alone would be like really fun. So.
Yeah,
we'll say Saki Akai.
Yeah.
At KOLDPT, if Saki-sama has to rebuild, speaking of her, actually no, that's a different wrestler. What am I talking about? If Saki-sama has to rebuild New Bishiki-gun, who should she draft /corrupt?
We've been saying this for ages now, but Raku. Definitely
Yeah.
Raku. Like, what else is
Yeah.
Raku doing other than waiting to join New Bishiki-gun?
Yeah.
Get it done, Coda.
Yeah, and now we know that it's gonna actually, I guess spoilers need to happen, but I was gonna say Hikari Noah. So I guess we're sort of in the same boat, but on slightly different wavelengths. But yeah, that would be my pick.
At Joshi Valley, do you rate Joshi match of the years in the same way as the men? Will Mako Sari or Nanai versus Arisa crack an overall top 10? I think I kind of already said yes, because Mako and Sari is my number 1 match of the year overall, and Arisa and Nanai is number 3, so I do. I mean, honestly, this would have been a better question for the fucking WWE episode, because if anything, I need to give American Pro Wrestling a handicap, because that's what fails to WWE or AEW. They both fail to show up on any of my year-end overall lists, whereas Joshi does not. Joshi is always on my year-end match of the year list, and it's not. I don't really see any reason to rate it differently, and it doesn't need any kind of weird fucking sexist handicap. It's outstanding wrestling. What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, this is my match of the year list. The only, like, in general, the only thing I might change is that Lily Pencil Antonio Honda would be right near the top if we were also considering intergender. But other than that, yeah.
Well, you don't even watch men's wrestling, right? So
yeah, a bit DDT, but yeah, it's not as good.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I mean,
I try hard.
But, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I rank them. They're all the same. I think 5 out of my 10 matches I listed are going to be in my top 10. So, yeah, that's actually totally even. 5 out of 10, I guess, would be 50%. Yeah, but yeah, there's no handicap or anything. I don't even think about that. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's only the 2 that I mentioned that are going to be in my overall top 10, but I'm not, if it's an overall match, then it's an overall match. I don't really see any reason to be special about it. But again, that's 2 more than all of America is getting on my top 10. Darren, and I'm not going to read your handle, buddy. It's
the old Mikuru Wata handle.
Yeah. What is Suzu Suzuki's ceiling?
She... every time I see a picture of Suzu or a clip or whatever of her stood next to Fujimoto, I think she's going to be the new Fujimoto when Fujimoto retires. I just think that stylistically they're not identical, but there's enough in common there. And Suzu she's already well on her way, I think. And I think for whatever Fujimoto's ceiling is now, it's that plus minus whatever you get from where Ice Ribbon is in 10 years time. So yeah, that's how I see her career panning out.
I never this maybe will sound like sort of a Debbie Downer sort of response. I never sort of project where anyone will go. We've talked a lot about the rookies in 2020 and stuff like that, but Joshi is sort of a strange world where at any moment anyone can leave for good, as we're seeing, in a week or 2 in Stardom with Hazuki all of a sudden leaving sort of unexpectedly and out of nowhere. I hope everyone goes on and becomes huge stars, because that would be awesome, because that's more fun wrestling for me to watch. But I just I don't love playing the sort of guessing game with Joshi, because it's so volatile of a style of wrestling.
Okay, so we're running low on time. I'm going to pick through. That's all I have time for with the Twitter questions. I'm only going to pick a couple of the Discord questions. So a lot of it we covered anyway. But let's see. From Nothing to See Here Anymore, how many defenses will Yuka get with the belt? Will she lose it on 1-4, or will she be able to hold it for some time? I think she's going to win on 1-4. I don't feel super confident about that, but I feel like she probably will get to beat Miyu finally, and I would assume after that she gets at least a couple more defenses.
Yeah, I think she will. I think it would be unnecessarily cruel to make her do 0 defenses twice. Especially considering Miyu had such a long run with it already. Tokyo Joshi, other than Miyu's defense record, Shoko had maybe 3 defenses, and that was one of the best records in the history of the belt. So she'll drop it to somebody in spring, summer next year. I think that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say 4 because I'm guessing that she gets through 1-4. She has a title defense at the WrestleMania show, so that's 2. And then, if you think, okay, she drops it in June, you probably have space for 1 or maybe 2 more defenses. So my guess is 4.
As it turns out, I think Discord is down, so I can't even get on there to, see the rest of the questions. But for some reason, let me access the pinned questions on the JCast server, but I can't get over to the VOW server to see the pinned questions. So I apologize, guys, if you had questions. I didn't get to. I mean, we're running out of time anyway, but there's some kind of Discord server issue. So there you go. I guess that happens. All right. Why don't we go ahead and do some plugs here, Luke? I know you have a podcast to plug.
Yeah, the Miracle Apricot podcast, which is on Twitter at Apricot Pod. We should have a couple of new episodes coming out soon. One of them will be a deep dive into the career of Sakura Hirota, and there will be another episode which me and Connor will do in our kind of high-speed wrestling podcast guys, about my sub 10-minute match of the year, which I have already discussed on this podcast, but I'll keep which one it was a secret. All the stuff I was saying about Gatoh Move earlier, I have discussed at much greater length on an episode called Notes Towards a Theory of Sakuraism, which you'll find if you scroll back far enough on that Twitter page. And I interviewed Balianaki and Darcy Stone, who've worked and trained with Emi Sakura on that podcast. So do check that out if the Gatoh Move chat has piqued your interest at all. And you can follow me at Oysters Earrings on Twitter. And I am just always talking about Joshi, so give me a follow.
Taylor?
Coming up this week, I will be recording a podcast with Aaron Bentley for the Everything Elite Patreon, which is going to be a deep dive into STARDOM, the history of the promotion, where it came from, the wrestlers, the factions. So if you listen to this long podcast about Joshi, but you are still new to STARDOM or want to learn more, you can check that out. That will be on their Patreon, hopefully in the next week or so. Also, if you enjoyed this discussion, I'll give a little bit of a blind item to say that you may want to follow me on Twitter, TAMAIMBO, Tamaimbo, because there will most likely be some upcoming announcements to things I'll be doing that you may be interested in. So give it a follow and look out for that information.
Oh, are you doing a Joshi podcast? Is that what you're teasing?
I can't say.
You can't say. Okay. I know people have wanted that on the network forever, so that'd be something. All right, folks. You are listening, as always, to Wrestling Omakase. You can follow us on Twitter at WrestleOmakase. Wrestling did not fit. And, folks, this week means we are officially halfway done with our year in review series. Next weekend, we hit the 4th out of 6, which is it's going to be, first of all, we've done Ring of Honor in the past 2 years with the same 2 guests. Ring of Honor did not have a good year, and I did not watch them, so I did not want to do Ring of Honor again, but I wanted to bring them back on. So what we're doing instead is AEW and Ring of Honor, since ROH had so much to do with, or vice versa, they were kind of connected, and the rise of AEW really hurt the Ring of Honor, I guess you could say. So we'll talk about ROH's very interesting year as far as like completely falling off the face of the fucking earth, but we'll also have a promotion to talk about as far as like shows I actually watched this year. So it'll be AEW and ROH next year or next week with Sean Sedor and Joe Gagney returning. Plus, Nate from Everything Elite is going to be on too. So another podcast on this network. So the 3 of them, Nate, Sean, and Joe, will be on here next week to talk AEW and ROH. So that'll be next week's episode of Year in Review. Folks, thank you as always for listening. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.